The golden tree that rises in the world of Teyvat. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Treasure Hunt. This place, why does it look so ordinary? Can we really find something valuable here? Clement muttered in front. Payman, I think it's spectacular. I'm not talking about the scenery, but, since there was a great war, there should be some unusual places. But now, alas, I don't even know where to start. This place is called Guan Pavilion. If you want to study the history of the demon god or the demon god war, this is an excellent place. Legend has it that the Emperor Rocking used rocks as spears and threw them into this sea area to pierce and suppress the demons. Those rock spears have undergone years of weathering and eventually formed this unique scene. Payman, such a big mountain is actually the weapon of the Rock King. What remains in front of us today is just the tip of the iceberg. The rock spears thrown by the Emperor back then, both in number and volume, far exceeded this. It's just that, because of the different angles in the huge columns, they were eroded by seawater or affected by gravity, and many of them sank to the bottom of the sea as a whole. Therefore, in addition to the subsequent weathering, the initial collapse is also one of the important causes of Guan Pavilion. Then, a demon who can fight against such an exaggerated power should also be very strong. After Zhongli finished explaining, Clement asked, "Yes, this is the value of Guan Pavilion's research. Hey, I remember that the Vortex demon was dissipated by the immortal Lord Sword. Is she stronger than Prince Yan?" "Indeed, but most of the objects related to that period of history sank into the deep sea, but the Vortex demon set off a huge wave, which also gave these things the opportunity to see the light of day again. Well, as long as you look carefully, you can make a lot of money," Clement said excitedly, and then noticed that everyone shifted their gaze to her. He quickly changed the subject. I mean, there will definitely be a lot of gains, right? That makes me feel relieved. Payman, hey, he is here to hunt for treasure after all. Liusu, tell us more about the salt demon, Payman said on the side. At this time, they had separated from the other two. Zhongli, Ying, and Liusu were a team, exploring Guan Pavilion. You will know in a moment. I have also told you the general situation of the incident. You need to experience it yourself to better understand the follow-up of this matter, and you can also know the cruelty of the war between demons and gods at that time. Liusu preserved the memory of the Great Mercy Tree King, and it was not at all inconsistent to say this. In terms of universal rationality, it is indeed the case. What? Everyone is like this? Payman said dissatisfiedly. Just as Zhongli said, Liusu came here for sightseeing, walking, and looking along the way. However, Payman and Ying collected several seemingly ancient things under Zhongli's instructions. Liusu felt a subtle power of the demon on a stone slab. That's about it. Let's go back. You call yourself an archaeologist? You can't see this. You don't know that. Are you any good at it? As soon as I walked over, I heard Clement arguing with Yan. Isn't it normal for people to specialize in a certain field? I've tried my best to explain it. Payman quickly interrupted the quarrel between the two. Stop arguing. Stop arguing. What happened? This guy keeps saying that he is an archaeologist, but he knows nothing about the ruins around here. He doesn't know as much as I do. I can only rely on my intuition. I mean, experience, and brought back something that seems to be valuable. Alas, what a waste of time. At this point, Clement's tone became more and more dissatisfied. I have been studying the salt demon god. It's normal that I don't know anything about the things in the sea. Yan defended herself. As a scholar, this is indeed wrong. Ying observed the two people. It didn't seem that the two of them came for archaeology. But you have been asking me how much more of this is worth, and how much more of that is worth. Is the value of cultural relics more? You two don't have to argue. We also brought back some things. Why not take a look here together? Everyone showed the so-called treasures they collected. Zhongli observed and shook his head and said, "Unfortunately, although these things you brought back were indeed brought ashore by the whirlpool demon, it is a pity that they have nothing to do with the demon. They just come from the nearby sea. In comparison, it is still this stone slab we found. There are mysterious patterns on the surface, and there is a little power of the demon. It may be helpful for a search. Quick, give it to me. Clement snatched the things in Zhongli's hand and said happily, with this, it's not a complete loss. The power of the demon, this is a good thing. Clement took all the treasures found by everyone without hesitation. Is it worth studying? Only if there is a remnant of the demon's power. No, I pursued Lisan, the demon god of salt, because history can tell about culture and faith. After saying that, Wanyan turned her head to Clement. As for you, you just want to make a fortune in the name of archaeology. Nonsense. I'm a professional archaeological researcher from the Kingdom of Winter, guaranteed. I didn't know how to complain. Your purpose is already known to everyone. Oh, by the way, it's best not to sell that teacup. Zhongli reminded kindly, that's not an ancient thing. It's Mingwang's collection, and it fell with a jade pavilion. If you don't want to annoy the 7 stars. I see. Clement was still a little afraid of the 7 stars of Liu. Okay. There's no need to stay here next. By the way, I'm also very interested in the demon god of salt. Let's go to the salt in the underground next stop. Salt in the underground? In response to Payman's question, Zhongli answered, the salt of the underground is a piece of island-like place on the right side of Dahur Island. Let's go directly there. Everyone arrived at the salt of the underground. I heard that the salt of the underground was once the place where the people of the salt demon lived, so, valuable cultural relics should be everywhere. Legend has it that under the protection of the salt demon Julia, her people did enjoy a period of prosperous life. This legend has been circulating for a long time, but there are countless scavengers and treasure stealing groups that visit this place, and there are not many valuable things left in the wild. After hearing Zhongli's introduction, Clement said dissatisfiedly, TSK, what a bummer. I wouldn't have come if I had known it was so poor. Regarding this, I know there is a relic deep in this cave that is related to the salt demon. In fact, that is also the original origin of the name Salt of the Underground. Wanyan explained. She looked at the sealed ruins, and the purpose was obvious. It's just that the entrance to this ruins has been sealed by a mysterious force, and no one has been able to unlock it. Although I found a mechanism that may be related to the unsealing, even if that is unlocked, the seal remains motionless. So at present, the origin of the seal and the method of removing it are very important topics in the research of the salt demon god. Aang heard Wanyan's words, and asked from the side, is it related to the people? I don't know, there is no solid evidence. But the significance of the seal is mostly to hide some facts. The salt demon god is kind and benevolent, loved by everyone, and has strong power. He will not leave anything shameful. It's true that he is kind and benevolent, but I don't know if he left anything shameful. Liusu's words reminded Payman of what he heard on the Zudian boat. So this is the matter that is covered up here? Why do you think the salt demon god set up a seal after his death? It certainly wasn't done by the salt demon god himself. Liusu and Payman were talking in a low voice, but Wanyan continued to talk, as if she didn't hear them. Then, the one who wants to hide the truth is most likely the murderer, Morax. This doesn't seem like something Morax would do. Payman spread his hands. This doesn't matter. It sounds like there must be various treasures of the salt demon god in the ruins. Clement said excitedly, as if he was dreaming, that he had made a lot of money, which made Wanyan very dissatisfied. Did you listen to what people said? Alas, even if there are relics of the salt demon god in there, who can get in if the seal is not opened? Yes. Liusu took over the topic. Ha ha. Everyone turned their eyes over. It's just a small seal. Why think so much? Under the shocked eyes of Payman and Aang, a green sword appeared in Liusu's hand. Go. The long sword made of grass element slashed at the seal, and the seal was broken directly. As expected, Liusu's way of thinking is so different. Payman had a troubled face. Wasn't Liusu the former god of wisdom? This behavior was not like what a god of wisdom should do. From a universal rational point of view, this is not a good way to deal with it. Zhongli nodded. Sure enough, she understood at this time that sometimes force is more useful than brains. What are you standing there for? Are you going in? Liusu looked at everyone, except Zhongli, who were looking at her in shock, and said dissatisfiedly, Chapter 52, Salt of the Earth. Before entering the ruins, I have a suggestion that can avoid the meaningless quarrels like those in Guan Pavilion. Zhongli's identity is still quite authoritative in the eyes of everyone. Wan Iron echoed, "Sir, please speak. Please sign the contract." The content of the contract is, take the objects in sequence, one at a time. To show your sincerity, you can just choose, and you don't have to include me in the sequence. I don't need it either. Aang said immediately. I don't need it either. Liusu knew that there was actually no treasure in it, only a cup that could pour out salt infinitely, and a ruler that could be inserted into the soil to turn the soil into salt. What are these for? Pickling yourself to make yourself saltier. I don't agree. Does this mean I want to share the harvest with this half-baked archaeologist? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Clement directly rejected this proposal. I don't agree. Humph. He will only waste the cultural relics left by the salt demon. I can't accept it either. Wan Iron also rejected this. Then, if the contract cannot be established, I can no longer serve as a consultant. What treasures and traps are hidden in this ruins depends entirely on your experience. As soon as Zhongli finished speaking, the two of them struggled for a long time before reluctantly agreeing to the contract. If you want me to agree to the contract, that's fine. I only have one request, Mr. Zhongli. If the truth about the salt demon god is discovered, please make a fair judgment, even if the truth is unfavorable to Morax. So are you guys still going in? Hurry up, I still want to have dinner. How long will it take like this? Liusu was already impatient, standing aside. Why are there so many people here? No problem, I agree to this. Then, let's go. As soon as everyone entered the ruins, they found a standing human-shaped statue. Clement walked up to observe it closely, thinking it was a treasure. This is a statue? The vivid statue made Wan Iron a little terrified. No, they are people. Zhongli's words made this Clement scream, and he hurriedly moved away from the statue. These people, I'm afraid they are the followers of the salt demon god back then. Clement asked in horror, how did it become like this? What exactly is inside the ruins? I don't know. Let's go first. Liusu walked straight forward. Is it the Hillock people? Why are there so many Hillock people in the closed ruins? Payman asked on the side. Who cares? They are just Hillock people. Look at me. What is a Liu sword fairy? Liusu gathered the grass elemental power, and 8 long swords composed of grass elements surrounded his body, plus the one in his hand, a total of 9. Hey? Don't you call yourself the Liu grass god? Payman asked in surprise. Who told you that I call myself the Liu grass god? Stand up. Liusu said this as feebly. Zhongli told me ahem. Although Zhongli interrupted Payman's words, Liusu understood the meaning. Zhongli, you are not kind. Liusu said faintly. Let's keep going. Liusu led the way, and the grass element sword beside him could track and attack the enemies around him. It was Xinqiu's ultimate move plus enhanced version. As everyone went deeper, the statues on the ground became more and more weird. Some of the statues knelt on the ground devoutly, but the fear on their faces was beyond words. If the salt demon god was a gentle god, it shouldn't be like this. Everyone stopped in front of an object similar to a vessel, and Liusu sensed the authority of the salt demon god on it. Wan Iron walked forward to investigate and said, is this filled with half of the salt? It's just a rock jar. It seems that the salt demon god is a poor demon god. Clement said disdainfully with his arms folded across his chest. As far as I know, it's not ordinary. Although it's only half, there will always be half. In other words, it's endless. Zhongli explained on the side. What? Even if I keep pouring it out, the salt inside won't decrease. Clement said happily, like a Sichuan opera face changing. That's right. Zhongli nodded. It can produce endless salt. Sure enough, the power of the salt demon is very powerful. Wanyan said excitedly. Liusu stood aside and said, what's the use of endless salt? Can you choke the demon god to death with it? But endless salt can bring wealth to her people. Wanyan said excitedly. Do you know what endless salt means? Oh. What does it mean? Morax can also make endless mora. The salt demon can only make salt. What's the use of salt in war? Liusu glanced at Wanyan. Morax can directly crush the salt demon with mora. And, even now, using salt is also to exchange for Mora, right? You. Wanyan was furious, and pointed at Liusu with a trembling finger. Ahem. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Zhongli's face. It's a very happy thing, to be crushed to death by Mora. Payman said with sparkling eyes. Eyeing. Payman. Payman cutely stuck out his tongue at eyeing. Hey. After all this trouble, I finally found a treasure. This thing belongs to me. Clement said. Salt may be useless in war, but it is indeed a considerable fortune now. I just need to pour out the salt, and get thousands or tens of thousands of bags. I can make a fortune by selling salt. Clement said excitedly, and he had already started dreaming. Hey. How can the legacy of the salt demon be used for such a superficial thing? Wanyan said dissatisfiedly. This is a blasphemy against the demon she believes in. As she said, what else can these salts be used for? Isn't it just to exchange for Mora? Mora is the hard currency of Teyvat. Clement retorted bluntly. If Mr. Clement wants this salt cup, then according to the contract, the next item belongs to Ms. Wanyan. No problem. How can there be something more valuable than this? Zhongli's words made Clement nod indifferently. Since you have discussed it, let's go to the next place. Liusu, why do you dislike the salt god so much? Is there any rift between you two? Paimeng asked curiously, while walking on the road. Oh, I don't know the salt god. I haven't even seen him. Then why is that? That Wanyan is the descendant of the salt god's people. She uses Liu's resources, but speaks ill of the god. That attitude makes me very uncomfortable, and I have also learned about the salt god's deeds. Huh, is that so? No wonder I feel she is weird. So Paimeng, it's wrong to eat meat with a bowl in hand and curse people when you put the bowl down. Liusu looked at Paimeng and said with a smile. Hey. Paimeng scratched his head embarrassedly and finally let out a classic wind god sigh. Everyone entered the next room, and on top was a bronze ruler, the ruler emitting a moon-white light. Huh, just a ruler, it doesn't look useful. Clement mocked as always. This is, if I remember correctly, this should be a measuring device. Indeed, but the salt demon god also has authority here. Zhongli nodded, somewhat agreeing with Wanyan's words. Once this salt ruler is inserted into the ground, the soil will be covered with salt like flooding. The deeper it goes, the more salt grains there will be. In other words, it is a good harvest of salt. Clement exclaimed, this is not more powerful than the salt cup. Then, according to the contract, this salt ruler belongs to Ms. Wanyan. No, I don't agree. I paid the money and organized this exploration. Why should I suffer a loss? And this little girl is useless. Why give her something? He really did it anyway. Paimon was not surprised at what Clement said. After all, this is a very common method of the Fachu. Oh, have you thought about the consequences? Liusu looked at Clement and said, why, you want to attack me? Clement was still very afraid of Liusu. No, I'm just sightseeing. I won't hit a dog unless it bites me. You. Clement was very angry when Liusu called him a dog, but according to Liusu, if he didn't do anything to her, she wouldn't do anything to him either. In the end, greed overwhelmed his rationality. Zhongli said lightly, that means you want to break the contract? So what if I break it? I've almost figured out the mechanism of this relic. So, you're useless. And she also said she wouldn't do anything. Clement said toughly. In his opinion, as long as Liusu didn't do anything, he could handle an old man and a little golden-haired girl. After all, I'm the one who hired you. Why should I follow your rules? Because you made a contract. Chapter 53 The Broken Contract. The Rock King once said that once the contract is signed, those who break their promises shall be punished by eating rocks. That is the god of your Liu. I'm from the winter solstice. Zhongli's words made Clement completely unconcerned. In his opinion, the gods of Liu could not control their winter solstice. The punishment of eating rocks, you can feel it yourself. It won't be easy. Clement felt pain all over his body, as if someone was forcing rocks into his mouth again. This pain took him a long time to recover. Since the punishment of eating rocks has been completed, it's time to collect the interest. As expected, Clement is a debt collector of the Fachu. How dare a Mifachu be so presumptuous in front of me? I raised the rock not green, and after a flash of sword light, Clement fell down. This speed is nothing compared to the debt collector in Genshin Impact. Even the clone is so slow, it's so disappointing. I will also confiscate your harvest. You are no longer qualified to move forward, so just leave. Damn it, just wait for me. Clement hurriedly fled, and before leaving, he did not forget to make a harsh remark. Payman spread his hands. It's said to be an archaeological exploration, but in the end, I couldn't pretend anymore. Aang looked at Payman seriously and said, Payman, don't become like him in the future. Hey, although I like Mora, I don't do bad things. Payman said dissatisfiedly, obviously very angry that Aang didn't trust him, and he must ask Aang to treat him to another meal. Oh no, 3 meals of Liu Zhan Xiaoqiang in the future. Clement's mistake is greed. But besides greed, there are also many temptations that make people want to violate the contract. In the face of the desired things, how many people can restrain their desires and abide by the contract? Why not take this opportunity to make it clear? What do you want to talk about? Zhangli's words made Payman confused. I guess you all know from Liusu that this temporary archaeological team actually has no one here to do archaeology. Zhangli glanced at Wan Iron beside him and continued. Why do you say that? Wan Iron felt uncomfortable with Zhangli's look. Madam, you lack the most basic knowledge of archaeology. You don't know many cultural relics, but you are particularly proficient in the knowledge of the Salt Demon God. Compared to archaeology and cultural relics, you are more interested in the Salt Demon God itself. Paimeng nodded. Yes, Liusu said that she is. Yes, these rumors are more circulated in Yinyuan Hall as far as I know. Zhangli interrupted Paimeng's words. Liusu's whispered communication may have been hidden from the other two, but Zhangli did hear it clearly. Stop talking. Wanyan interrupted. Sir, you are indeed knowledgeable and talented. It seems that I made the right choice to muster up the courage to ask you questions. Yes, I'm not an archaeologist. I come from one of the 7 stars and 8 gates of Liu, the Yinyuan Hall, which is in charge of the salt industry. Our ancestors were the people who were protected by the demon god of salt during the difficult period when the demon god war swept across the continent. Payman and Aang were not surprised by this because they had known it for a long time, and there were 2 ancient gods traveling with them this time. During the war, Morax assassinated our god. He was jealous of the power of the salt demon and made us homeless. Wanyan said unwillingly, we hate him. But Liu is Morax's Liu. History must be allowed to be whitewashed by him, so I want to prove it. Morax is also guilty. His hands are stained with blood, and he has a cruel and ruthless side. Although Liu has entered an era of human rule, the departure of Morax does not mean that Liu really has no gods. Everyone knows that it is the Immortal King who is protecting Liu now, but the Immortal King has never really shown up, so I want to expose Morax's evil deeds to the Immortal King. Zhangli. Liusu. Why does this matter involve me? Since when did I take charge of Liu? Why didn't I know? Thinking of this, Liusu turned her head and glanced at Zhangli. Zhangli, we signed a contract and we have to face the truth, right, Mr. Zhangli? You have to make a fair judgment on this matter. Of course. Besides, Liu is no longer the Liu of Morax. It's not the so-called Liu of the Immortal Lord either. Liusu corrected Zhangli after he finished speaking. Come with me, all the answers are ahead. Zhangli glanced at Liusu after he finished speaking, thinking to himself, how much you don't want to be in charge. Liusu walked forward first, followed by Zhangli and Wanan. Well, why don't these 2 gods want to be in charge of Liu? One pretended to be dead, and the other didn't show up. So, it seems that the gods of Teyvat are not normal. After Payman finished speaking, Aang touched his chin and concluded. Everyone continued to move forward. This time, what was placed on the stone platform was not an instrument, but 2 broken swords. Is this a sword? Ah, it's a broken sword. This is the evidence. Proof that the salt demon once resisted, but he couldn't resist Morax's murderous hand. Do you have a memory disorder? I told you that Morax used a gun. Liusu felt that Wanan was really stubborn and couldn't remember it, even after saying it so many times. Compared to the Salt Cup and Salt Ruler, the power of this sword must be far beyond them. Liusu. Well, my words were ignored again. If this sword can be repaired, we can show others the power of the Salt Demon. It does look like something left after a defeat. Payman looked at the two sections of the blade. The two broken swords are two cultural relics from an archaeological point of view. According to the contract of taking the objects in order, you can only take one of them at a time. Zanke said. Why? Although we are taking the items in sequence, Clement has already. Yes, but it is still valid to take one item at a time. You can't take two artifacts at the same time. This. Zhongli's words made Wanyan very unwilling. Well, Zhongli, she doesn't have bad intentions, and she didn't fight for it. Can you be flexible? Aang turned her head and looked at Paimeng, as if she saw an alien. Paimeng, what are you talking about? Isn't this malicious? Paimeng scratched his head and knew that what he said was wrong. The contract cannot be compromised. If you don't abide by it, it is a violation. Zhongli explained expressionlessly. The contract was formed under his nose as the god of contract, so it was naturally impossible to be flexible. No. If you only take half of it, then there is no way to repair it, and there is no way to restore the power of the Salt Demon. No matter what, for my belief in her, even if it means breaking the contract, I will do it. Have you made up your mind? Then, there is a price to pay. Zhongli crossed his arms, obviously not surprised by Wanyan's decision. As he said before, human nature is greedy and will break the contract for the sake of immediate benefits. This means that you will bear the punishment of eating rocks. That doesn't matter. The Salt Demon is willing to sacrifice her life to protect her believers. My sacrifice is insignificant. It doesn't matter what kind of punishment you want. Just let me bring back the proof of my faith. Facing Zhongli's expressionless words, Wanyan said firmly. Zhongli, you can't hit girls. Paimeng said hurriedly, causing Aang to look at her again. Do you still care whether she is a girl at this time? What is your brain circuit? If that would free me, it might be an easier way. But, as a punishment, I will tell you the truth. Zhongli, why don't you just beat her up? Paimon whispered. Aang, Paimon. Hey. Paimon scratched his head. What? The truth? You told me the truth as a punishment for me? Wanyan asked in confusion. Yes. The fact you will hear next is the price you pay for breaking the contract. Zhongli nodded. Unfortunately, the Salt Demon, Hulia, is not a powerful demon, as Liusu said. On the contrary, she is too weak to accommodating, too weak, and there is no way she can ascend to the throne of the seven gods. A loser. What did you say? Zhongli's words made Wanyan unable to accept this cruel fact. Chapter 54 The Unacceptable Truth. During the Demon War, the demons in the mortal world used all their strength and wisdom to fight for the continent of Teyvat. Even the kind and benevolent god of wisdom spared no effort in this battle. But Hulia chose to escape. She believed that, as long as she gave up before the fight broke out, the war would never affect herself and her people. However, in the long years of war, there would be no end to concessions. In the endless concessions, Hulia lost all her lands, and was left with only the last place to live. No, it's impossible. Wanyan couldn't accept this fact. In her last moments, she didn't even have a weapon to raise to protect her people. Not even a weapon. But this sword? Yes, this broken sword is not a relic of the Salt Demon God, but the weapon that killed her. Unlike Hulia, the god of wisdom, who was not good at fighting, chose to fight. She developed her wisdom to the extreme. Although the two have similar personalities, the decisions they made are different. This is also the proof that the god of wisdom became one of the seven gods, while Hulia could only perish. No. This is fake. Everything you said is fake. You want to confuse my faith in the gods. I said, I only state the facts. Zhongli said expressionlessly. How can this be? You are also a believer of Morax. Don't try to deceive me. After that, Wanyan ran away, which shows that Zhongli's words did have an impact on her. Paimeng shouted at Wanyan's back. Hey, don't run. Aang, it's too much of a blow to her. After all, this is a punishment. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to tell such a cruel thing. Let's continue to go deeper. There. I'm afraid there will be something that will force her to accept the truth no matter what. Zhongli, I've heard you say many times that the god of wisdom is not good at fighting, but why do I feel that you are wrong? Isn't Liusu the previous generation of the god of wisdom? Paimeng still asked. In Liusu's words, the god of wisdom has nothing to do with me, the god of grass. Zhongli said jokingly. Liusu said dissatisfiedly, hey, it's not good to say that in front of me, right? Consider the reaction of me, the person involved. Believe it or not, I will cut you with my sword. Zhongli, ahem. Is this the god of wisdom? It seems that he is more brutal than the god of fire. Paimeng complained in a low voice. Wisdom is a trick used when force is insufficient. In the face of absolute strength, wisdom is empty talk. As the saying goes, where the sword can reach, what I say is the truth. Force is sometimes better than brains. Since you can use force to suppress, why bother with brains? As long as you are strong enough, you can make everyone listen to your twisted ideas, even if they are wrong. Okay, so this is the definition of wisdom? I learned it. Paimeng said seriously. Eyeing Paimeng. In terms of universal rationality, what Liusu said is correct. Zhongli turned his head and glanced at Liusu. How come this god of wisdom has become more and more reckless? He seems to be developing in the direction of Munita. Okay, let's go. Let's move on to the next one. Liusu turned his head and walked forward, followed by Aang and Zhongli. Are these statues running away? As they went deeper, there were more and more statues, and their expressions and movements became more and more weird. What is ahead? It's salt and betrayal. Zhongli answered Paimeng's confusion as he walked. Finally, everyone saw Wan Yan who had escaped before the flash door. What happened along the way? Wan Yan leaned against the stone door in fear, muttering, what did they see and do? Then, what happened? Since you can't trust me, let's keep going forward. Zhongli said to the closed door in front of him. Everything that happened at that time, and the traces left behind this door, will be recorded truthfully. As soon as Zhongli finished speaking, he urged his divine power, and the originally closed door was opened. Everyone entered, and then saw a statue holding a sword in the middle of the room, and there was a pattern left by a pool of salt in the middle, like a flower. Here is the scene. Julia's body collapsed, leaving only some traces of salt. The scene of her death was also frozen here. Wan Yan. Zhongli continued to narrate with an expressionless face. The sequel of the story is, some of her people finally realized that this kind, but weak demon god could not protect anyone in the war. The demon war is very cruel. Instead of letting her endure the torture after the defeat, it is better to grant her a relatively easy relief. Both are kind demon gods, but the results are different. One chose to face it, and the other chose to escape. The one who dared to face it became the 7 gods today, and the one who escaped was left with only a salt flower. Paimon analyzed with reason and evidence, but what about these statues? No matter how weak the demon god is, the power lost when he dies is not something that a mortal body can bear. Those who failed to escape all became like this. The people of the salt god who had not experienced this disaster left her territory and went to Liu to ask for the protection of the Jia Emperor. Their descendants were afraid of the demon remnants left by Julia and afraid that she would curse them forever. So, they risked their lives to return here, broke the sword, and offered it, hoping to calm the anger she left behind. Zhongli paused, sighed, and continued, but in fact, they were doing too much. How could this demon who had never resisted until the end, be angry with his own people? Even so, I don't accept it. In Liusu's opinion, Wan Yan was already possessed by a demon. A hoax, a false history, everything is. Don't try to shake my faith. Wan Yan looked at Zhongli angrily. She couldn't accept this cruel reality. Although she said that her faith would not be shaken, she had already believed it in her heart. This time, Zhongli was really merciless. Paimeng looked at Wan Yan who was leaving, and said with his hands spread out, this is the price she has to pay, but it's not a bad thing. Looking at her appearance, I'm afraid she will continue to waver for a while. However, even if she can't be relieved immediately, it's not bad to just face up to reality. Aang thought for a moment and said, you are too familiar with the experience of the god of salt. Well, a long time ago, the story of Julia was also a warning to me. As Liusu said, although she has never seen Julia, she may have learned from the world tree that those who retreat in the demon war will end up like Julia. Besides, there is really no benefit in believing in a dead god. Whether it is the belief in Julia or the belief in Morax, it's the same. So, the faith of the people of Liu has shifted to me, Liusu said, feeling the growing faith. Ahem. Although the people of Liu have never really seen you, you are still there in name, and they know that you are not dead, so naturally they transfer their faith to you, and it was you who killed the vortex demon god Ossel. Zhongli said calmly. I have to say that the contract signed with you is indeed the most favorable contract for me among all the contracts I have signed in history. So after I abdicate, your succession is also a good thing. TSK, you are worthy of it. You talk about shouldering the burden so high soundingly. You know, I have given up Zumi. How can I let you manage Liu? Liusu said dissatisfiedly. Next time I will find an opportunity to perform the immortal sending ceremony again. Hey, why are all of you gods like this? You just want to go fishing. Wendy is the same. You are all like this. Paimeng said dissatisfiedly, and Liusu, why did you give up Zumi? Didn't I say it? Zumi has a new grass god, and doesn't need me. Besides, I also dislike some people in Zumi. The most important thing is that it is not conducive to the development of my plan in Zumi. Okay, really? Paimeng understood a little, but not completely. Okay, how about you accompany me to Guan Pavilion? Zhongli said after the conversation. Hey, what is Zhongli going to do? Paimeng asked curiously. Hey, after telling so many stories, it's inevitable that I miss those old friends. Old friends? Isn't Ossel dead? Aang asked after thinking of something. Although Ossel is dead, there are more than one demon suppressed under Guan Pavilion. Zhongli answered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 The Purpose of Travelers. Wow, this Guan Pavilion feels very spectacular, no matter how many times I come here. Several people stood on the highest stone pillar of Guan Pavilion, overlooking the sea. I mentioned to you before that many past demons were suppressed under Guan Pavilion, and Ossel was just one of them. Now the immortals have handed Liu over to mortals, and the era of Julia is a more distant past. The salt cups and salt rulers she left behind should not be returned to Liu Port. Leaving them here is both sleeping and returning home. Liusu asked, so you don't want these salt cups and salt rulers? These salt cups and salt rulers are of no use. If you need them, just take them yourself. Well, I'm just saying, why do I need so much salt? Liusu waved her hand and said, I ended an era with my own hands. I have been thinking about how to record the history that I ended. History can be recorded, but history is unreliable. This incident has proved this. Time has great power, and history will be distorted over the years. I need to find better records to engrave the true history. Stone carving was once a long-standing record, but the seemingly unchanging rock, the seemingly unchanging world in me, may all disappear one day. Zhongli's tone made Paimon feel a little sad. But it's okay now, because of the establishment of the golden tree, I can engrave my memories into it. Just as Liusu said, the golden tree has taken too long to grow. As for the future crisis, I'm not sure whether the golden tree can withstand it at that time. So, traveler, I thought of you. Zhongli finished speaking, staring at Aang and continued, you are a person who has traveled far across the sky and across the sea of stars. If the history is engraved in your memory, you can go to another world with you one day in the future. As a traveler, as long as you can record it, then the era and history of Teyvat will have a backup of existence. So, if something really happens to the golden tree, our existence will also be remembered by you. Liusu used the golden tree to seal your memory, not to eliminate it, but as a means of protection in Teyvat. If Teyvat no longer exists that day, and the golden tree no longer exists, then this sealed memory will reappear in your mind. Zhongli's dull words made Aang feel a little depressed, and she whispered, so this is a reason for looking for me to go with you. Payman spread his hands. Isn't Liusu very strong? Even she can't avoid it? Liusu is indeed very strong, but she also exists in Teyvat. She can't be immune to this situation, so she created the golden tree to prepare to resist these. This is also the contract between us. The road ahead is long and arduous. Then, next, it's time to throw the salt cup and salt ruler into the sea. Zhongli thought for a while and changed the subject. It's not time to tell the traveler about the rest. Payman asked in confusion. Why throw it into the sea? Didn't I say it just now? Many old demons are suppressed here, including Beisha, who was locked in the deep sea by the Guanyu pavilion. Although Ossel is dead, other demons are not weaker than Ossel. Zhongli turned around and walked towards a higher place. Aang followed behind Zhongli with the salt cup and salt ruler. Thousands of years ago, Liu was in chaos. I and the immortals cleansed the four directions. Zhongli said as he walked in front. The rock spear suppressed the place where all the demons lived. After thousands of years, the lonely cloud pavilion has only left stories and legends. Oh, you finally came up. I've been waiting here for a long time. Liusu stood at the edge of the cliff and looked at the sea. The sea breeze blew on her face, moving her hair. Ossel, you and I are enemies, not friends. Although you have disappeared now, the opposition of the old times is only a memory of the old times. Zhongli walked to the edge of the cliff and paused. Aang, who followed, handed the salt cup and salt ruler in his hand to Zhongli. The relics of Yulia will be devoured by your wife. At this time, the golden rock elemental power emerged from Zhongli's body, pulling the utensils left by the two salt demons and throwing them into the sea. So, Zhongli, you also contributed to the saltiness of the sea water. Liusu said faintly at the side. Zhongli, the miracle of Liu Harbor has been reduced by 1 point from now on. Zhongli decided to ignore Liusu's magical train of thought and continued. All things between the earth and the sky will be left for future generations to judge. I want to stay here for a while longer. I'm afraid that there will be fewer and fewer opportunities to reminisce like this in the future. You can leave first. Zhongli stood at the edge of the sea, looking at the sea, his eyes revealing reminiscence. Of course, reminiscence will become less and less, because old friends will slowly revive. Liusu said on the side. Haha, yes, it's different now than before. The revival of old friends, even if Teyvat will eventually encounter a crisis, but this is enough. Zhongli was stunned, and his eyes became clear again. Aang remembered the story of the salt demon at this time and said, the salt demon is a bit pitiful. Because of retreat, he was killed by his own people, and was unwilling to resist until the last moment. In the era of the Demon God War, the standards for determining good and evil were different from now. Zhongli said with emotion, of course. Now I also hope that she can be born in a more gentle era. Hasn't Yixio de Ocean's engine returned? Then the Salt Demon God should also be able to return, right? Paimeng said curiously. I guess not. The golden tree requires too much willpower. Reviving a demon god is a terrifying number. With the current ability of the golden tree, reviving immortals is already the limit. Liusu rejected Paimeng's words. How much power is needed to revive a deceased demon god? Paimeng said, is that so? What a pity. And compared to the salt demon god who has nothing to do with us, Liu also has many deceased demon gods. They are our target. It seems so. Reviving our own companions is the most important thing. Paimeng nodded and confirmed this statement. From a universal perspective, those who sacrificed for Liu are our goal. The power of the golden tree is limited. We cannot waste this power on others. Everyone is selfish, and gods are no exception. Aang continued to ask, will the relics enhance Beisha's power? Although the salt cup and salt ruler still have power, they are still not worth mentioning to Beisha, who is not as strong as Ossel. Zhongli said softly, if one day she recovers and makes a comeback, he will definitely be defeated again. Zhongli's defeat was a bit implicit. After all, even a strong person like Ossel was killed by Liusu with a sword, because of the threat to Liu. Paimeng said excitedly, yes, we still have Liusu. She is in Liu, and the little demon god will definitely not make any waves. Aang didn't want to complain about Paimeng's words. What is a little demon god? Listen to what you said. What are you going to do next? Aang ignored Paimeng and continued to ask Zhongli. Good question. If it were in the past, I might have given you a very specific answer. But now, well, he probably wants to continue to perform his duties as a guest official of the Wangsheng Hall. Perform his duties as a guest official of the Wangsheng Hall. Oh, what he means is that the next plan is to slack off. After all, what is there to do in the Wangsheng Hall every day? Liusu exposed it bluntly. Zhongli, can you give me some face? Zhongli, is it really okay to expose me like this in front of the travelers? Well, you are worthy of being a social loser. Payman nodded thoughtfully. Payman, can't you be more tactful? It's not the first time that he said he was a social loser in front of Zhongli. Zhongli, ahem. However, if you enjoy this journey, record it next time, and we might as well travel together again. Boss of Genshin Impact. The front is the gate of the golden tree. After we go in and defeat the final boss, we can enter the second round. And Payman stood on the platform of the golden tree. This golden tree was different from the golden tree outside Liu. There was a 10-meter high door on the trunk. I'll go in first. Since you sent me to the gate of the golden tree, our contract has ended here. Now you can use the method of converting spiritual energy into power by yourself. The figure of Paramecium suddenly appeared next to and Payman. She said to turned around and walked towards the inside of the golden tree. Let's go in too. The final boss is exciting just thinking about it. I wonder what Liusu will set inside. Said distressedly. I don't know what it is, but it will definitely not be easy. Yes, the monsters made by Liusu are all very strong. But you have also learned a lot of fighting skills here, and you are stronger than before. That's right, the efforts have paid off. Although the process is difficult, this feeling is really good. Let's go. After defeating the final boss, we can use elemental power in the next round. Walked to the door. In front of her was a layer of golden light curtain. As entered, the strong light made her eyes dazzled, and she came to a huge platform. It seemed to be the inside of the golden tree. The huge golden tree was already hollow inside. Who are you? Enemies of eternity? Only eternity is closest to the law of nature. Since you are the enemy of Yanghan, then stay here. A purple-haired woman sitting in the middle opened her eyes and looked at and said. On her head was the name, Cooking Lady of Paramecium. In that case, I will keep you here forever. Did not speak, because these so-called bosses are thoughtless, only have lines and fighting ability. The purple-haired woman began to move, and at the same time a life value appeared on her body. Also knew that it was time to fight. She showed her fighting style, because she did not know the skills and attack methods of this purple-haired woman. As died again and again, she also figured out the woman's attack methods, and became more and more skilled. This purple-haired woman can only use a knife with the power of thunder to attack. With high agility, these attacks can be dodged by her. Goodbye, this world. As the last trace of the woman's health disappeared, the purple-haired woman turned into a light point and dissipated. Have we beaten the big boss? It's so hard. Payman said excitedly on the side. Said, I don't think so. Because the death of the purple-haired woman did not give a reward, it means that the stage is not over yet. Just as thought, the scene changed, and appeared in a white sky. Although there were clouds under her feet, it seemed that there was an invisible barrier supporting them. Here I come. Looked at a red crack that suddenly appeared in front of her. A figure was walking out slowly from it. It was a woman with white hair and golden eyes. As she walked out, the barrier under her feet rippled. She was wearing a black and white short skirt. On the left side of her back were 3 golden and white objects that looked like wings, and on the right side were 3 spears of the same style. She was like walking on a staircase, and a red square would appear under her feet every time she walked. Hairser of the Void, Pufferfish, her name was still displayed above her head. She waved her hand at and a cold and ruthless voice came into ears. Outsider, your journey ends here. The dead memory attacked me again. What the hell is this Hairser of the Void? Why is he so similar to the maintainer of heavenly law? I'm the Hairser of the Void, and I control the power of space, and you will completely disappear in this space. Hairser of the Void? In other words, a god who controls the authority of space? Is there any difference between this and the maintainer of heavenly law? Liusu, you can't do this. Just change the name of the Heavenly Justice Maintainer and put it in Genshin Impact as the final boss. She is about to launch an attack. Get out of the way. Payman also looked at the Hesher of the Void in front of her in horror. This strong sense of oppression made her a little familiar. That's right, this paramecium was designed by Liusu using the Queen of the Three-Wheeled Vehicle in her previous life. The skills and other aspects were all her own ideas. Payman's shouting made come back to her senses. The Hesher of the Void had already moved her hand. Sensed the danger and quickly dodged. One by one, cubes of red and black solids formed at her previous position. If stayed in that position, she would probably be strangled by the red and black solid on the spot. Oh, interesting, weak bug. Seeing dodge, the Hesher of the Void said with a little interest, and that arrogant expression was fully displayed in front of Aang. Aang gritted her teeth, raised her sword, and attacked the Hesher of the Void. In the first round, she couldn't fly or use elemental power, so the Hesher of the Void, who was also a boss, couldn't fly either, and could only tangle on the ground. The Hesher of the Void stretched out his hand, and a series of blocks like chains quickly attacked Aang. This speed was much slower than the Heavenly Justice Maintainer that Aang had encountered before, otherwise she couldn't dodge at all. She dodged and killed the Hesher of the Void. Oh. Since you can hurt me, you are quite interesting. After the Hesher of the Void finished speaking, the three spears behind him began to appear, looking for the opportunity to attack Aang. Every time the spear would appear in the sky above the traveler's back, and fall down in a very short time. Once the spear appeared, it would stay where it was, so Aang still had time to dodge, but the attack of the Hesher of the Void was more ordinary at this time. In a moment of carelessness, Aang was brushed by the sub-void spear, and turned directly into a light point, and disappeared on the spot. You are dead, Aang. Aang sat on the fire next to the golden tree, and pondered for a long time. Aang, are you okay? Did that boss remind you of something? Payman asked from the side. That boss is very similar to the strange god I mentioned, and even the methods are the same, but I can feel that she is not that strange god, as if she exists in another world. Aang said thoughtfully, the Hesher of the Void is very similar to the strange god in expression and appearance, but she has changed her clothes, and this Hesher of the Void has another way of attack. Let's continue. We have to be careful of the spear she throws. I can feel that she is much weaker than Liusu at this moment, because as the Hesher of the Void, she can't not fly. Aang analyzed that, if the Hesher of the Void could fly, this game would definitely not be passed, and Liusu must know this, so this Hesher of the Void can be defeated. Then let's continue. Come on, try to beat the final boss, as soon as possible. Payman cheered from the side. Payman and Aang entered the door again, still inside the familiar golden tree. The purple-haired woman was still sitting in the same place, saying the same lines. Because they had fought once, Aang quickly dealt with the purple-haired woman, and entered another scene. Outsiders, your journey ends here. Following the familiar opening remarks, Aang's face was tangled. It was really uncomfortable to be attacked by such dead memories. This time, Aang did not wait for the Hesher of the Void to attack first, but took the initiative to rush forward. You are very brave, but your life will end here. The Hesher of the Void changed his words. As Aang's blood volume reached a limit, the Hesher of the Void still used the sub-void spear. Aang carefully dodged, always paying attention to the space behind him, and carefully guarding against the sub-void spears one after another. Little insect, your behavior makes me angry. Welcome the judgment. When the Hesher of the Void reached half of his blood volume, a strong airwave blew Aang and Payman backwards. This airwave did not cause any harm to Aang, but only pushed her away from the Hesher of the Void. The Hesher of the Void walked towards the sky step by step. She opened her arms elegantly. Black and red cracks appeared behind her. Sub-void spears emerged from the black and red cracks. This is the moment of judgment. Countless sub-void spears were fired towards Aang's position. Aang had to dodge in a hurry. The sub-void spears hit the barrier and exploded violently. Aang was unable to dodge in time, and was finally affected by the explosion. Her body turned into white light and dissipated. You are dead, Aang. Wow, this final boss is too powerful. How can it be defeated? Payman said dissatisfiedly. That kind of intensive attack is impossible to dodge. No, I think that, although Liusu's design is difficult, it can still be passed. Aang shook her head and denied Paimeng's words. What Aang didn't know was that the final boss of other worlds was a huge preserved egg. Only the one in her world was the Hesher of the Void. This was also the special Liusu gave Aang. Chapter 57. After clearing the level. This is the moment of judgment. The Hesher of the Void rose into the air again, and countless sub-void spears began to attack Aang in a carpet-like manner. Aang moved gracefully within the range of the sub-void spears. This time, she learned to use the blessing of the wind without form, and her agility increased by 20%. This 20% bonus was completely terrifying for Aang, who had only two abilities, strength and agility. Aang finally avoided the bombardment of the Hesher of the Void this time. As the Hesher of the Void slowly descended to the ground, Aang hurried forward to attack. The attack of the Hesher of the Void became more crazy after landing. Aang had seen a lot of such scenes. She had just crushed several spirit crystals before she basically understood the fighting style of the Hesher of the Void. Pop. The Hesher of the Void suddenly snapped his fingers when his health was at the last point, and a strong wave suddenly hit Aang's body. Aang's health bar suddenly dropped to 1 point, which made Aang stunned. Then, the Hesher of the Void's crazy attacks poured on Aang's body. You're dead. Aang's figure appeared again on the fire outside the golden tree. At this time, she held her head in pain. She was so close, but she was stunned. Why didn't you kill me in 1 second? That would make me feel better. Liusu, your game is really too psychological. Aang looked uncomfortable at this time, because she found that it was impossible for her to dodge the snap of the Hesher of the Void. The snap was almost instantaneous. When she heard the snap, the damage had already reached her body. So the fact that she had a little blood just now was not a problem of the game, but this mechanism made her have only a little blood. Paimon whispered to the side, Aang, are you okay? After a moment of loss, Aang immediately cheered up. Setbacks will never defeat me. Anything? How could I be in trouble? Come again. Aang stood up and entered the light curtain again, skillfully defeated the first purple-haired woman, and then moved to another map and faced the Hesher of the Void again. Aang had already figured out the previous stages of the Hesher of the Void. After some maneuvers, she reduced his health to the last bit. Aang discovered that the Hesher of the Void had a bloodlock. Logically, the damage of her last attack was enough to kill the Hesher of the Void. However, the Hesher of the Void still had a little blood left. The familiar snap of fingers sounded again, and the attack landed on Aang's body, and her health was immediately drained. However, Aang did not daze at this time. She held the sword and stabbed directly into the Hesher of the Void. At the same time, the Hesher of the Void's attack also landed on Aang again. Aang's body turned into light and dissipated, and then she heard a voice on the death screen. The world has rejected me. The Hesher of the Void stood in place and sighed, and then turned into countless tiny red and black cubes and dissipated. Aang, why does this sentence sound so familiar? Got was killed. Spirit plus 64,000. When Aang was resurrected again, she was not outside the light curtain, but on a platform inside the golden tree. At this time, there was a fire inside. She found that the fire transmission was no longer useful at this time, so Aang walked to the fire and sat down. After a while, the figure of Paramecium appeared, and she slowly walked to Aang's side and sat down. God is dead. Paramecium turned to Aang and said, it's finally over. Paimon said excitedly, since God is dead, my mission is also completed. See you next time. I and the Hesher of the Void are originally one. Now that she is dead, I will be like her. After saying this, the body of Paramecium turned into countless red and black cubes like the Hesher of the Void just now, and disappeared on the spot. Get the element, wind. Wind element allows travelers to gain the ability to fly for a short time. So Paramecium is the Hesher of the Void. No wonder they look so similar. Paimon said beside him. Yes, I got the wind element when Paramecium died. Then can the world directly kill Paramecium and pass the level next time? A bold idea appeared in Aang's mind. Because in Genshin Impact, everyone is lifeless, and they all act according to the program set by Liusu. These short plots did not resonate with Aang. Aang saw that there was an option on the fire to go to the second round. After Aang confirmed, her eyes flashed, and she came to the platform where she entered Genshin Impact again. In addition, her level, aura and equipment were all preserved. The only thing that was added was the wind element. She went to the platform with great interest, ready to take revenge. In the first round, Wendy killed her instantly. This time, she must get back at him. You're dead. Aang. Then there was another familiar plot, but this time Aang was not given the elemental bottle. Aang was now allocated 14 blue bottles and 0 red bottles. Anyway, they were all killed in one hit, so it didn't matter whether there was a red bottle or not. Ah. Damn Wendy, wait, I'll remember this grudge. Aang said viciously. Aang, this seems to be a character in the game, and it has nothing to do with Wendy. Paimon whispered aside. No, I can't beat him in the game. Aang retorted. It seems that I can't beat Wendy outside either. Damn it, let's go to Fenkidi later, and dig up all the wine he secretly buried. Paimon. The monsters in the second round are more crazy than those in the first round. Fortunately, Aang now has elemental power and can rely on the blue bar to stay in the air for a short time. As a reward, the spiritual energy in the second round is more than double that of the first round. Following the same plot, Aang came to the second campfire again. When she walked over, she found that the paramecium was already waiting there. In a flash, Aang leaped and stabbed the sword in her hand into the body of the paramecium. The paramecium turned its head and looked at Aang with an unbelievable look, and then turned into a red and black block and disappeared. Got killed. Spirit plus 128,000 obtain element. Rock Aang. As expected of me, this method is probably only something I can think of. Liusu also noticed that Aang had already completed the second round. She carefully sensed it and found that Aang used a bug to kill the paramecium at the beginning. You are worthy of it, Aang. Your behavior is different from others, Liusu said, but she was secretly repairing it and turning the paramecium in Aang's world into an invincible state. It really works. Aang sat on the fire and saw the option to go to the third round. She excitedly entered the third round. Wouldn't it be possible to quickly pass the level by killing a paramecium every time at the beginning? Aang, you have passed the level so soon. Paimon was surprised and had not recovered yet. I'm still good. Let's go to the next round. Aang came to the third round. When she entered the third round, she saw Wendy and jumped directly from the cliff next to her. You are dead. Running quickly all the way, she didn't even light the fire and went straight to the place where the paramecium was. Aang excitedly took out the sword and stabbed the paramecium again, but this time her attack did not hit the paramecium, but passed through her body. Spirit minus 10,000 Aang. Well, it seems that Liusu has fixed the bug. Aang had to give up this method and went to fight monsters with a bitter face. The monsters in the third round were stronger than those in the second round, and the amount of spiritual energy obtained was also twice that of the second round, and they could also attack with element. At this time, Aang's scalp was numb from being beaten by these monsters. A small monster was equivalent to fighting a small boss in the first round. Oh, I wouldn't have skipped classes earlier. Now it's hard, but the rewards are not bad, and the spiritual energy has increased. Aang comforted herself in her heart and continued her journey in Genshin Impact. Liuan, what's wrong? You look so sad after coming back. Alas, it's not Shenhe's child. Something went wrong. I went back. Her emotions were suppressed too much. It's not suitable to bring her to Liu Port now. It would be better if someone could contact her. Liuan sighed and said that Shenhe was too troublesome, but as a master, Liuan would definitely take responsibility to the end. We'll see when the time comes, and when the time comes, we can arrange for her to go down the mountain. It seems like it would be a good idea to let Aang get in touch with him. Liusu suggested. Yes, the traveler is also a special existence, and there is no problem in letting her get in touch with Shenhe. No, let's go, let's eat. We haven't had any good food in Aozang Mountain for a few days. Let's go to Wanmin Hall. Liuan said this and hurriedly pulled Liusu out. As a foodie, she couldn't stand these few days in the mountains. She was used to eating delicacies from the mountains and the sea before, and when she returned to Aozang Mountain to eat something casually, it felt like chewing wax. Now that she is back in Liu Harbor again, the first thing she does is of course to have a good meal. Chapter 58 The Prototype of the Golden Prayer. As time went by, Liusu also discovered a problem. Except for those who possessed the Eye of God, the progress of others in Liu and Genshin Impact was very poor. At most, they had defeated a few small bosses. Liusu checked the records of several ordinary people and found that they were generally fighting small monsters. Because they could only use weapons such as swords to fight big monsters, they could not defeat several of them. After all, everyone was not a hard worker like Aang and a martial god like Zhongli. Even the progress of the 7 stars of Liu and the Immortals was not ideal. Although they could fight, the limitation of their elemental abilities made them stagnate in the level. Liusu also found the main reason for this problem, which was elemental power. Except for gods, it would be a devastating blow to people without the use of the Eye of God. By the way, the Golden Tree, you can borrow the power of the Golden Tree. Liusu excitedly thought of a game in the previous life, where people could not use elemental power, but could use other means to borrow power. It turns out that I haven't used my brain for too long, so I have forgotten it. Liusu touched his chin and thought. Liusu began to add settings to Genshin Impact. Originally, there were 4 basic attributes: strength, agility, physical strength, and spirit. Now Liusu added faith. Liusu also slightly modified spirit. Spirit can increase the mana bar and the damage of elemental magic. This is perfect. Liusu first tried to add a few golden prayers to the game store. They were exchanged for spiritual energy. In addition, you need to buy a ring to use this kind of prayer. Wear it on your left hand and consume the mana bar to use it. Golden Tree Pledge requires 15 faith, 10 spirit, and 10 strength. After releasing, it increases your maximum defense value and attack power by 20%, which lasts for 1 stick of incense. Holy Law Blade requires 15 faith, 15 strength, and 15 agility. After releasing, it enchants your weapon with holy attributes. These 2 are given to everyone in Genshin Impact. You don't need to spend spiritual energy to buy them. Then there are ordinary warrior skills. Liusu threw all of them into the store in a scattered manner. As long as you can think of them, you throw them all in. As long as the guess is complete enough, the Golden Tree can materialize them all. Why does it feel like this world is getting more and more wrong? Liusu stroked her chin and looked at the Golden Tree. Why did she feel like she was seeing the Ring of Teyvat? At night, Keqing, who was resting with Ganyu in the Moonsea Pavilion, entered Genshin Impact. After entering the world, Keqing saw 2 more skills in front of her, the Holy Law Blade and the Golden Tree Vow, as well as more faith. Generally speaking, if one really believes in Zhongli, they generally have an initial faith ranging from 10 to 12 points. Aang didn't believe in these, so she only had 0 faith. When she went online, Aang fell into deep thought while looking at her 2 new skills and 0 faith in the world. Both skills are undoubtedly useful, but Aang can't use them because she has no faith. It seems that I can only rely on upgrading to add points. I clearly believe in the Golden Tree so much. Really, Liusu, you are slandering me. Aang complained dissatisfiedly, but still went to fight monsters honestly. And Keqing, as a twisted fan of the Emperor, has a full 15 points of faith. She followed the instructions and went to the grocer, bought a worn silver ring, and put it directly on her left index finger. Then the golden prayer equipped by her became usable. For the Keqing chose to release the Golden Tree and swore, and she couldn't help shouting it out. Keqing. This huge voice almost made Keqing socially dead, and her little face flushed. It must be the Immortal King who did it. The Keqing wouldn't be so embarrassing. Keqing complained in a low voice, but this feeling is not bad. At the same time, other ordinary people in Liu were trying to swear on this Golden Tree, and they couldn't help shouting out the slogan set by Liusu. Everyone didn't think there was anything wrong. In their eyes, the Golden Tree was built by the Keqing, so there was no problem shouting this sentence. Everyone couldn't help but think, the Keqing must have his deep meaning for doing this. And Zhongli, who noticed the update, also entered Genshin Impact again. When the slogan came out of his mouth involuntarily, Zhongli was stunned for a moment. Zhongli. He had never been so embarrassed before. When he thought about the other Liu people shouting this slogan, in Liusu's words, Zhongli felt that he was so embarrassed that he could dig out a Liu with his toes. You are worthy of it. After a long silence, Zhongli squeezed out a sentence and then directly exited the world of Genshin Impact. With 2 prayers, everyone's progress became faster again. Everyone gradually understood the prayers and skills in the store. Everyone saved up spiritual energy to buy skills. Everyone was making rapid progress. Well, this is very good. It seems that prayer is still useful. I just don't know if it can be applied to reality. This needs to be used well. A few days later, Liusu checked the data and thought about the possibility of the golden prayer entering the real Teyvat. At the same time, Aang also brushed enough spiritual energy and raised her faith to 10 points. She walked to the store excitedly and spent 100 spiritual energy to buy a worn silver ring. Without thinking, she opened the golden tree and made a vow. Respond to me, Alicia. Aang raised the sword and shouted loudly. The sword in her hand showed a light pattern in the shape of a golden tree. Aang. Paimon. Aang, who is Alicia? Paimon said with a tangled face. I don't know either. It must be Liusu's doing. Aang's face was red at this time. This shameful slogan made her feel ashamed. Although she didn't know who Alicia was, shouting this sentence made Aang feel like ants were crawling all over her body, and she shouted it so loudly. She would never use this skill again. Absolutely not. Respond to me, Alicia. Just after saying no, Aang still opened the golden tree pledge when encountering monsters. 20% attack and defense is too good, and there is only Paimon in this world of Genshin Impact. If Paimon tells this matter to others. Thinking of this, Aang turned her head and looked at Paimon. Yingzi, what are you thinking about? Why do I feel panic in my heart? Paimon said fearfully. Nothing. If you tell this matter to others, you're done. Aang threatened loudly. Paimon scratched his head and asked in confusion. What's the matter? What do you mean? Aang pointed at her body that was glowing with golden light. Oh, you are just responding to me, Alicia? Paimon said with sudden realization. You still said you have no food for tomorrow. No, Yingzi, how can I live without food? I promise not to tell anyone, I swear. Facing the threat of food, Paimon hurriedly said to Aang in a flattering way. He also put his little hand to his ear and made a swearing gesture. Okay, let's continue exploring. With the oath of the golden tree and the holy law blade, Aang's effect in fighting monsters has been significantly improved. It is still the same as before with 14 blue bottles and 1 holy grail bottle. Speaking of this holy grail bottle, it was given by Aang when she encountered the paramecium at the beginning of the 3rd round. It can be used to reconcile energy and choose 2 ability bonuses, such as various elemental damage, 5-dimensional improvement, and single unit improvement such as speed, attack and defense. Aang chose strength and speed as always. In her opinion, everything else was incorrect. Only speed and strength were the closest to the law of nature. In Liu Harbor, Liusu's eyes lit up. She received a 360-degree memory of Aang shouting this sentence. When Aang shouted the slogan for the first time, her face was red, full of shame and embarrassment, and Paimon looked at her in surprise. Of course, Liusu designed Aang's slogan, paramecium, cook, and this sentence. If Aang leaves Teyvat and goes to that world in the future, I wonder what will happen. Thinking of this, Liusu laughed unkindly. If Aang knew Liusu's thoughts, she would probably only say one element. Amid the shouts of the crowd, Zhongli, who was resting, suddenly opened his eyes. Continuous faith gathered towards him, and the huge power of faith made him feel that the lost power has returned. Zhongli. Chapter 59 Aang's unexpected journey. Respond to me, Alicia. As the golden tree's oath was used more and more frequently, Aang shouted this sentence more and more fluently. It was just a slogan, no big deal, Aang thought with a fierce face. Aang raised the peak chopping blade and attacked the target ruins guard. The effect of the peak chopping blade is that it can continuously increase its attack power as the battle time goes on, and the upper limit is 150%. For Aang, this is a particularly good weapon. I have to say that the golden tree's oath is really useful. Even if I make a mistake, the 20% defense can give me a chance to make a mistake, Aang thought while cleaning up the ruins guard. Great, after defeating this ruins guard, we can teleport directly to the foot of the golden tree, Paimon said excitedly on the side. The monsters under the golden tree give much more spiritual energy than other places. Spirit plus 256,000. Aang walked to the fire and added some spirit to strength and agility again. There would be a fierce battle when she was teleported to the foot of the golden tree. Only by walking to the fire of the golden tree could Aang teleport back, or she could come back if she died there, but the teleportation trap would be unusable after she came back, so Aang didn't want to die and could only stay in good condition. The trap treasure chest, as the name suggests, is a treasure chest that triggers the teleportation trap, which will teleport the traveler to a dangerous place. Aang opened the trap treasure chest. Unlike before, this time it was not a thick fog, but a strong black crack with attraction. Before Aang and Payman could react, they were sucked in. Huh. Why did Aang disappear? Liusu noticed that Aang suddenly disappeared in Genshin Impact. Is it here? This is interesting. Following Aang's link, Liusu found Aang's current location. Liusu looked a little strange, because she found that she couldn't get out, although she sensed the world where Aang was. Aang and Payman were teleported out of the crack. Facing the fall from the sky, Aang instinctively spread her wings of wind, but unlike before, this time it was not wings of wind, but a pair of golden and white wings. My power is back. No, just a little bit of power, but compared to before, it is a qualitative leap. Aang stretched out her hand to feel the endless power in her body. Is this also the world of Genshin Impact? Why does this sense of power feel so real? Aang saw that she still had the worn silver ring on her index finger. Aang, where are we now? Why does it feel wrong? Shouldn't we be teleported under the golden tree? Payman said while flying in the air and looking at the surrounding environment. Aang, can you fly? Payman also suddenly discovered that the wings behind Aang were not wings of wind. At this time, Aang was floating still in the air. I don't know why, but the power in Genshin Impact can still be used. I guess this is also a copy made by Liusu. Let's take a look around first. Although you can fly now, Aang, we seem to appear in someone else's room, and they are looking at us. Payman pointed at the two people watching below and said, who are you? Why did you suddenly appear on the Hyperion? A white-haired short person wearing a black nun dress raised his head and asked. Well, she feels like Nashida, especially the wise eyes. Payman whispered on the side. Aang, I always feel that Payman is saying something bad, but I have no evidence. Then let's get rid of them quickly. Payman said excitedly. Since we are still in the world of Genshin Impact, then the ones who appear are enemies. Payman, I don't think they are enemies, nor bosses. Aang checked and said. Although the skills in Genshin Impact can be used here, the health bar data, and so on are gone. Hello, my name is Aang, this is Payman. We are travelers from another world, and we came here because of an accident. Don't know where this is? Aang decided to communicate. She felt that the two people in front of her had thoughts. From another world? Is it Hankei? No, you don't have the reaction of Hankei energy, but a more powerful power. Let me introduce myself. My name is this app, and I'm Saint Freya. Forget it, you are all from another world, and don't know what I'm talking about. The one next to me is Medi. We will soon reach the top of the laboratory. The woman called Medi said, staring at the huge building in front of her. Something is wrong. The defense suddenly became weak, as if it was intentional. Medi's words made this turn her head and look forward, frowning and said, boom. It seemed that the Hyperion was attacked, and the whole ship began to shake violently, accompanied by a red warning. What's going on? This asked as she steadied herself. Strong space fluctuations were detected. The Hyperion seemed to be attacked by something, and Medi was directly pulled away from the ship by a stream of energy and disappeared. Medi. The Sa called out in a hurry. Let's go out, Payman. Aang took Payman and flew directly to the exit, while the Sa was still driving the attacked Hyperion. Aang, look, it's a paramecium. Payman exclaimed. Aang turned her head to where Payman pointed, and found that Medi was being held in the arms of a paramecium. This look and dress were exactly the same as a paramecium in Genshin Impact. Kiana, are you okay? I'm fine, I'm fine. The paramecium called Kiana sounds exactly the same as the one in the world of Genshin Impact. Okay, it's like I've been reborn. Paramecium is a pufferfish? Kiana's voice was gradually changing. Payman and Aang, who had heard it for so long, were very familiar with this voice. Sure enough, under Aang's eyes, the paramecium holding Medi gradually turned into a pufferfish, and even the sub-sky spear behind it was the same. I'm so glad you're here with me when I wake up. Now, merge with me again, my other half. Aang, have you noticed that the previous boss is similar to Medi, except that Medi's hair is not as dark as hers? Payman reminded her from the side, and Aang nodded solemnly. She felt that the pufferfish in front of her was very strong, and she probably couldn't beat it with her current strength. With a flash of lightning, a purple phantom-like maze emerged from her body. The pufferfish let go of Medi and landed quietly on the ground. We're too late. She's being controlled by Han K. She's in danger now. No, it's precisely because she's in danger now that I absolutely can't let her go, Medi said firmly. Humph, okay, since the enemy is a Harsher, we have to use the power of the Harsher to solve it. Don't let me down. What Harsher? Is it the same as the 7 rulers of the world? Payman scratched his head, not understanding at all. It should be a kind of authority in this world, just like the pufferfish is the Harsher of the void, controlling the power of space. The Medi in front of us is probably the Harsher of thunder. Aang analyzed on the side. Kiana, I will never abandon you. Just like you have never abandoned me. The purple shadow entered Medi's body, and her eyes began to become the same as the one of the golden tree. This made Aang seem to know something extraordinary. Could it be that Liusu is from this world? Aang, how about we go and rescue her? It seems that Medi and the pufferfish are enemies. Compared to Kiana, Payman and Aang still think that calling her the pufferfish is more convenient, because they already have a preconceived idea in Genshin Impact. Looking at Medi, who was at a disadvantage, Payman reminded her from the side. Before the voice fell, Medi was controlled by the pufferfish, and her neck was tightly pinched. Aang knew that she couldn't wait any longer, so she summoned the chopping peak blade and prepared to rush up. You may not believe me, but the editor told me that it would be on the shelves on Saturday. I was confused. How could a book with 600 collections be on the shelves? The editor said that I had read enough words. I would like to thank all the readers for their love, recommendation, and monthly tickets. Chapter 60. This pufferfish is so powerful. Kaya point now. Medi tried to reach out her hand to touch the pufferfish. When her hand touched the pufferfish's cheek, the pufferfish's golden pupils shrank and turned light blue again, accompanied by tears. At this moment, her body was occupied by the paramecium again. She suddenly let go of her hand, and the subspace spear behind her turned into a light spot and dissipated. She held her head in pain and shouted loudly, fighting with the pufferfish for control of her body. As a single-celled paramecium, how could it be a match for the pufferfish? After a struggle, red particles emerged from the body of the paramecium. She lowered her head and showed an evil smile. The red particles gathered behind her and formed the shape of an eye. A black lightning flashed from the eye and hit the air. A purple hole suddenly opened, and a white and purple thing drilled out of it. What a big one-eyed little treasure! Payman shouted in surprise. The so-called one-eyed little treasure waved the spear at Mei on the ground as soon as it appeared. Dang, Aang had arrived at this time, and she raised her sword to resist the attack of the one-eyed little treasure. Aang? Mei realized that the attack did not fall on her. She looked up and saw Aang blocking with a sword in front of her. Hurry up, this pufferfish is so strong. Pufferfish? Are you talking about Kiana? Although Mei was puzzled, she still left because she could not help now. Aang felt that the one-eyed Xiaobao in front of him was not strong, but the pufferfish not far away made him feel threatened. Aang picked up the one-eyed Xiaobao with his hand and killed it with one sword. At the same time, many blue mechas appeared here, the same size as the one-eyed Xiaobao. Aang could see that there were people controlling them. So what kind of world is this? Have I traveled through time again? Aang was a little doubtful about herself. This was no longer like the world of Genshin Impact. Aang, the pufferfish is going to use its ultimate skill. Payman saw the pufferfish walking away step by step. They had experienced this scene many times in Genshin Impact. According to Liusu's explanation in the game, this large-scale skill is commonly known as the ultimate skill. Aang raised her head suddenly. The pufferfish in the sky had already made a gesture. Countless spaces behind her were opened. However, what came out were not the spear of the sub-sky, but creatures like the one-eyed little treasure, or weapons. Following the pufferfish's gesture, Countless one-eyed little treasures emerged from the space and fought with the blue mecha on the ground. Aang shuttled through the battlefield. Every time she attacked, a one-eyed little treasure was cut in half by the sword. No, there are too many. We can't kill them all. Aang looked at the one-eyed little treasures flying out of the sky. They were so dense and their number was increasing. The blue mecha had already set up a shield wall. A blue barrier appeared in front of it to block the attack of the one-eyed little treasure. At the same time, the mecha behind it began to switch forms. Energy shells gathered and aimed at the pufferfish in the sky. Snap. A familiar sound of snapping fingers. Purple space blocked the attack of the blue mecha, and a golden ball of light appeared in the hand of the puffer. She held the ball of light and turned it, and purple space surrounded the blue mecha. The attack absorbed in front had been transferred by the puffer and all hit them. Wow, this puffer is so powerful. Payman exclaimed on the side. Is this the real Hersher of the Void? Aang looked at the puffer in the sky. She had perfectly mastered the use of space. When she turned around, she saw that her surroundings were already a sea of fire and ruins. It was just a matter of a moment, and the situation was immediately reversed. Aang raised her sword and flew towards the Hersher of the Void. The puffer did not expect that someone could attack her at this time. When the puffer drew out the sub-void spear, it blocked Aang's attack. Why do you help these weak bugs? The puffer explored Aang and found that there was a huge power in her body, a power that did not belong to this world. There is no reason, Aang said unhappily. In Genshin Impact, she was killed by the same phantom of you hundreds of times. Can this Aang say it? Of course not. Wouldn't it be nice to join me in clearing out the humans in this world? Pufferfish had no hostility towards Aang, because as long as they were not humans, not the so-called Valkyries, she didn't hate them. I have my decision, Aang said, and with a sudden force, the Hersher of the Void was pushed away by her huge force. At this time, Aang started to pray, the Holy Law Blade. She stretched out her left hand and pointed it at the chopping peak blade. With a flick, the silver ring on her left hand emitted a dazzling light, and the ordinary chopping peak blade was covered with golden light. I didn't expect that this Holy Law Blade could really be used. As for the oath on the golden tree, Aang was a little entangled, because there were too many people now, and she was a little embarrassed to use it. Damn it. The Hersher of the Void gritted her teeth. The sword emitting golden light in Aang's hand gave her a great threat. It was not her own, but a Hersher core that was afraid of this kind of energy. The sacred attribute restrained the collapse attribute, and at first glance, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it. The Hersher of the Void could only keep resisting Aang's attacks. Aang's speed and strength were very strong. Like an afterimage, she attacked her from all directions. As the fight went on, the puffer discovered that Aang didn't seem to be trying to protect the world, but was just angry with him. The retaliatory attacks and the huge power could make him stagger every time. Aang's smile was all over her face, as if she felt more and more comfortable the more she fought, as if she had found a way to vent. While resisting the attacks, the puffer thought, I don't think I have ever met her, right? If I had, it would definitely leave a very strong impression on me, just like the golden sword. Enough. The puffer waved his hand, and a strong air wave shook Aang away. At the same time, a silver and white dragon flew over. You still have summons? Aang looked at the puffer in disbelief, then turned to look at Paimeng, who seemed to be useless, with a very disappointed expression. Hey. What do you mean by your eyes? You're so angry. Paimeng caught Aang's gaze and stomped his feet angrily. Aang felt threatened. Her strength was only restored a little. Basically, she only had the ability to fly. Although the pufferfish in front of her was not strong, the power of the space made Aang feel very difficult to deal with. If a dragon was added at this time, Aang was dragged by the dragon, while the Hersher of the sky walked towards me, i.e. below. At this time, Aang had no time to take care of these. Although her attack could cause damage to the dragon, for some reason, the dragon recovered immediately after being injured. It's so difficult to deal with, and it has infinite blood recovery? Aang complained dissatisfiedly. She had never seen such a disgusting monster. After a struggle, the dragon ran away. Aang was stunned by this action. Long also felt very uncomfortable. She couldn't attack this person, and her golden sword slashed on her body, causing her severe pain. This pain went straight into her soul. Although her body could be infinitely repaired, the psychological damage could not be made up. The more she fought, the more frustrated she became. In the end, Long decided not to fight with Aang. If she continued to fight, she would probably collapse. Are you alright? Long's departure allowed Aang to land beside Mei, with this beside her. Haha. It's okay, but now there is a big problem. This panted and looked at the Hersher of the Void who was walking towards them. Weak, small, and overestimating one's own abilities. The dying struggle only accelerates the arrival of death. The puffer walked in front of the and said to them, "After so long, you still don't understand this truth. Little girl, why are you blocking me again? I'm so angry. You, the puffer, are so hurtful." Payman said dissatisfiedly on the side. Humph. The Hersher of the Void looked at the little thing in front of her and noticed a little uncertainty. She snorted coldly and turned her head away without paying attention to Payman. "Stop talking nonsense. That body does not belong to you. Ridiculous. This body is a container made for me by greedy humans. It is a sacrifice prepared for my birth." Hearing this as words, the Hersher of the Void said disdainfully, "We are helpless against her spatial ability, and even getting close to her is difficult." Mei thought to herself, unlike Miss Wendy and me, this is the true power of the Hersher. Hehe. But ants also have their value. Watching your clumsy puppet-like dance is also a kind of fun. I'm so angry. Why is this person so good at talking, making people's anger rise? Chapter 61 A New Year's Letter to Book Friends. I hope that in the new year, all your expectations will come true, all your dreams will come true, all your hopes will be fulfilled, and all your efforts will be rewarded. I wish all readers a happy spring festival, greater success in the new year, and unlimited prospects. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Happy New Year. This chapter is not the main text. You can take a look if you are interested. I wish all readers a happy new year, and may all your wishes come true in the new year. Then there is this book. I plan to write, well, the collapsing Yuri, such as Yilan Shenhe, Keking Ganyu, Aang Linghua, etc. This book does not write too many male characters, and the male characters' feelings are basically not written. The simple reason is that the author does not like them, and the male characters are described lightly. Some people say that imperfect stories are good, but I don't listen. I just want to write a happy ending. It is worth mentioning that some people like to watch Zhangli and GUI Zhang. I don't know how to write this. Let's see when the time comes. As for the protagonist, I won't look for it for the time being. There are Nashida, Liuan, and Tree King to accompany me. As for the style of writing, I will try to learn it. I will try to write happier in every chapter. When writing, I should be happier, and the reader should also be happier. I will have fun, so I will add some stalks in the text. As for Aang, she is also the biggest protagonist of this book. After all, the original god revolves around the traveler. Most of the time, she has more scenes than the protagonist. After all, Aang is a loyal believer in spreading grass. Grass will grow everywhere she goes. Then there is the so-called holy attribute, which was conceived by Liusu and realized by using the golden tree. It has a restraining effect on the abyss and the collapse, but it mainly depends on the ability of the user. I'm thinking about whether to add some weapons such as the divine body sword, so that Aang can sweep a large area of the abyss or the collapse of the monsters with the golden wave. These skills are of course associated with playing the Elden Ring, and I found that it is also quite fun to put them in the original god. Aang is equivalent to the existence of the faded here, with infinite potential, and can use fire, blessing, prayer, etc. In the setting, the world of Teyvat is incomplete and on the verge of collapse, so everything is corrected by the world consciousness, that is, the main line. So don't say that all the characters are collapsed. How can the main line still exist? This must be completed. The process can be different, but the result must be corrected. Just like now that Nashida has come out, but the scattered soldiers on the side of Zumi will still appear. but they are facing more powerful travelers and grass gods, which is why this book is invincible. I feel uncomfortable if I write too depressingly, so I add some of my own ideas according to the interesting main and sidelines, which is equivalent to playing the original god again, but there is no knife in this process. As for Liuan, after I wrote the article, the official actually released a character, but I don't want to change her, so let it be. The white-haired feathered clothes still exist. Anyway, there will be no description of her appearance later, because I have read some so-called transformation articles before. To be honest, it is quite uncomfortable. The protagonist is just like a guanfu, and I want to slap her twice. It is completely impossible to tell that it is a man who traveled through time, so I plan to write a book for fun. The protagonist of this book becomes the Tree King to satisfy my regret. After all, the Tree King is very beautiful and white-haired, which suits my appetite. Moreover, the Tree King is turned into a Tree King because it is easier to write later. The world tree is very useful. In addition, the Tree King is not dead and has always been there. As mentioned before, the protagonist does not have any feminine charm. His behavior is somewhat similar to that of the Willow God in The Ruthless Person, that is, strong, invincible, and will not be intimate with others. He is relatively easygoing for people with attributes. After all, he is using his wife's body, right? The only thing that is inconsistent with the protagonist's identity is that he let sighing pass the grass element everywhere. Finally, I wish all book friends a happy new year again, and a happy new year. Chapter 63 Eyeing. Respond to me, Elisha. Bella, go and teach them how to dance. Bella was the name of the dragon. When she saw Eyeing standing next to her, she hesitated for a moment, but finally followed orders and attacked the people. It's an attack. It's coming. Mary, be careful. Bella attacked Mary, ignoring Eyeing who was closest to her. This hurriedly reminded her. Eyeing. Seeing that one person and one dragon ignored her, Eyeing felt frustrated. Bella flew up in response, and flames wrapped in electric light poured out of its mouth. But its breath towards Mary and Issa collided with several black energy bombs that suddenly appeared in the air. With the explosion, a rain of light fell. Mary and Issa looked in the direction of the energy bombs in surprise. Hankei energy field shield, functioning normally. Driver equipment Yamabuki, all functions released. Start running at maximum power. Issa saw the person coming and shouted in surprise. Bronaya, why are you here? Mary also asked on the side. Long time no see. Mary's sister, school principal. It seems that Bronaya has just caught up. It's enough to rest. Bronaya, return to the team now. Eyeing felt as if she was ignored again. Why is this so? She touched her chin and thought. The Hesher of the Void didn't pay much attention to her, and the few people in front of her didn't seem to notice her presence. Then under Eyeing's horrified eyes, these few people actually defeated the infinitely regenerating Bella. Eyeing was a little doubtful about life at this time. She clearly felt that these few people in front of her were far inferior to her in terms of attack and speed. But why did this happen? Eyeing, can you hear me? Liusu? Eyeing shouted in surprise. Unexpectedly, Liusu actually talked to her at this time. Liusu, where is this place? Is it also in the world of Genshin Impact? There was a little accident with the golden tree. A branch extended outside of Teyvat. You just triggered that mechanism, and then you were sent here. Liusu checked, and found that a branch of the golden tree actually extended beyond the starry sky of the map, but the golden tree was virtual and directly penetrated the starry sky curtain without causing any impact. So, we have arrived in another world. Yes, it is almost a world bordering Teyvat. The golden tree extended over and touched that world. So, the people here are real? Then why can the prayer I got in Genshin Impact still be used? You are now using your consciousness to enter that world. You and Payman's bodies are still in Teyvat, but the golden tree has used energy to materialize your bodies. Similarly, through the golden tree, your abilities have increased, and prayers can also be used. Then how can I get back? Hearing that the body is still in Teyvat, but the consciousness has reached another world, and the current body is just a materialized energy, Eyeing hurriedly asked. Let me take a look, because my consciousness cannot reach the world you are in. I will see if I can use the golden tree to bring you back. Liusu, since I'm not my original body, can I be resurrected if I die in this world? Aang asked curiously. I can't be resurrected. Oh. Aang said a little disappointed. But it doesn't matter if you die. The golden tree protects your consciousness. Even if you really die, it's just that the body made of energy will dissipate, leaving only the consciousness. As long as the consciousness is intact, it's okay. The golden tree doesn't have the energy to create another energy body for you there. I know what to do. By the way, how long will it take me to go back? I'm now determining your coordinates. You'd better burst out your energy a little more so that I can locate you quickly. When you see a golden branch sticking out from the space, you and Payman just need to hurry in. Liusu, why do I feel that the people here are obviously very weak, but I can't cause any effective harm? Because this is a correction of the world's consciousness, just like they are now consciously ignoring the existence of you and Payman. After all, you are not the original lying now, but an invading consciousness. Oh, what a disappointing opening. The Herrscher of the Void clicked his tongue in dissatisfaction when he saw the dragon being defeated. But it doesn't matter, it's time for the heroine to appear. Then, let's get to the main show. I'm tired of this stage. The scenery has changed. No, we have been teleported away. Everyone's eyes flashed, and they appeared in an unknown place. The communication with Hyperion has been interrupted, and we can't determine our current location. As soon as Medi finished speaking, Bronner added from the side. It's time for the villains to leave one by one first. Well, it's the little girl with a strange hairstyle, and then the little girl with the cross. Finally, my half. Only you and I will be left on this stage to continue our unfinished ceremony. After the Herrscher of the Void finished speaking, he glanced at Aang, who stared at her with wide eyes, expecting her to say something, but the Herrscher of the Void just glanced and turned his head away. Aang. Okay, let me enjoy it. How will the ants struggle? Medi, Bronner, keep the formation. Get ready for battle. Aang, I feel like we are being ignored. Payman said with a frown as he looked at the people fighting together. I noticed it too. Liusu just explained to me that we were teleported to another world. The reason now is that we are not entities, but a combination of energy and consciousness. Liusu said that the reason for this is the world consciousness. Aang said, touching his chin. Really, Liusu actually contacted you? Is this another world? How do we get back then? I will release more energy later, and Liusu will be able to find us, and we can go back. Yeah, this feeling of being ignored is really uncomfortable. Teyvat is still better. I won't let you succeed. We won't lose this battle. As this spoke, her body began to change posture, from the original nun costume to the combat form. AHH. The result is predictable. The Sa was defeated in an instant. Her throat was locked by the Herrscher of the Void. Aang was stunned. She thought she was so strong, but she was caught as soon as they met. I caught you, little girl. The Herrscher of the Void lifted the Sa up like a chicken. Principal, Medi exclaimed. The Sa felt her neck being strangled, and her limbs were locked by an invisible force, so that she couldn't move. Although you look small, you are quite capable. I saw your concern, love, and guilt for her in your eyes. The Sa. I remember that I also saw such eyes before I fell asleep. The owner of those eyes naively reached out to me, thinking that she could protect me. But she didn't understand me at all, and she couldn't save anything at all. She was just immersed in the self-touching of salvation and relief. Compared to that time, you really haven't improved at all. The Herrscher of the Void pinched the Sa's neck, and said as if recalling a memory. This is like being forced to go through the plot in the world of Genshin Impact, but now Aang is indeed in a real world. This feeling of being ignored and forgotten makes her very unhappy. Go with the wind. Aang activated the wind element, and a strong wind attacked the Herrscher of the Void. The Herrscher of the Void hurriedly dodged. Aang's attack could not cause effective damage to her because of the Herrscher's power, but the elemental power was no good. It's you. Why did you stop me? Save these weak insects? It seems that you don't have any feelings for them. They are dispensable to you. Oh no, this world is dispensable to you. The Herrscher of the Void turned to Aang and said, so, why do you want to stop me? I just want to go back. Aang showed her cards and stopped pretending. The attacks of the wind element, grass element, and rock element poured towards the Hesher of the void. I seem to have sensed your location. Try to make as much noise as possible, because I'm communicating with the whole world at this moment. Only you with a special Skynet can hear my voice. Do you want to make more noise? Aang drank a mouthful of blue bottle to replenish her energy. She hesitated for a moment, and raised her head suddenly. Respond to me, Alicia. A force gathered in the sword in her hand, accompanied by another force. At this time, everyone else on the battlefield instantly turned their eyes to her. Aang raised the sword, and the pattern of the golden tree was clearly visible on the sword. Then, more fierce attacks were poured on the Hesher of the void again. It was as if she had an infinite blue bar. Aang drank the blue bottle while attacking. Damn, how could her power suddenly become so strong? The Hesher of the void could only dodge continuously. This feeling made her very uncomfortable. Excessive use of the Hesher core was also a big burden for her, but she knew that she could not be hit by Aang's attack, otherwise she would be seriously injured or die. Aang, look, the golden tree branch. Let's go now. Payman saw a golden branch passing through the space and appeared here, and hurriedly said to Aang, yes. Aang used her power, and rushed towards the golden tree branch with Payman. The moment they touched the golden tree branch, Aang and Payman turned into light, and disappeared on the spot. Then, the golden tree slowly disappeared in front of everyone. Hoo-hoo, gone. It seems that you are really going home, but you actually used me to vent your power, to let others locate the coordinates. Ha, how hateful. The ruler of the void said dissatisfiedly as Aang disappeared. She left, and it's your turn next. Welcome the judgment, ants. Hey, you called me, but you left this world. It's really not cute. Forget it, forget it. We will have a chance to meet again in the future. A pink figure opened his eyes and said dissatisfiedly when he saw Aang leaving. But this kind of power can actually wake me up. It's amazing. Chapter 64 Golden Commission. Hey, we are finally back. Yeah, it was a wonderful adventure. Payman and Aang looked at the familiar golden tree in front of them and felt an inexplicable sense of homecoming. It's morning now. Let's go out and have a good meal at the Hall of All People first. Let's go. Let's have a good meal today. It seems that these two worlds are really adjacent. No wonder Fiskal and Keking can go to that world later. But why can't I go there now? After Aang came back, Liusu touched her chin and thought, this is a bit unreasonable. In the end, Liusu summarized this as Aang is the protagonist, with infinite possibilities, and she can help her do a lot of things in the future. Although Aang has not grown up yet, it's not a big problem, and can be cultivated slowly. Time flies, and the days are surprisingly calm. It is worth mentioning that Liusu, who has become a fisherman again, has not caught a fish so far, but she is also happy about it. As a traveler, Aang is either commissioned or on the way to commission. If she is not limited to 4 hours a day, she can work hard until there are no commissions in the entire Adventurers Association. After Liusu's trial, teleportation anchors were all over Liu. In Liu, it takes only 5 seconds to reach the target area. This greatly improved Aang's efficiency. With the 3 element and the blessing of Genshin Impact training, Aang could handle commissions as easily as cutting melons and vegetables. Golden Commission. On this day, Aang still took Payman to the Adventurers Guild. This time, Catherine of the Adventurers Guild did not wear a purple commission logo on her head, but a golden one. According to Catherine's prompt, Aang went to Mondstadt without stopping, and went to the location of the commission. Yeah. Let me check the records. I got it. Recently, a stranger came to Mondstadt. The stranger has blonde hair like you, but his clothes are very unusual. Catherine of Mondstadt explained to Aang. Blonde hair, a stranger with unusual clothes. I always feel that I have heard this description once before. Payman spread his hands and didn't care about it. Wait a minute. Could it be? Could it really be him? Aang's mind flashed with the image of Kang, and then he was expelled by her. Impossible. What does my brother have to do with me now? Does the stranger's face look like his? Payman was very concerned about this matter and pointed at Aang next to him. Huh. And the honorary knight. There is a big difference. He is a very tall man wearing an eye patch. It seems that he is just a distant relative of Kia. Aang analyzed while touching his chin, without any disappointed expression on his face. Hey, what does this have to do with that guy Kia? Why can an eye patch be used as a proof of kinship? And why are you not disappointed at all? What's there to be disappointed about? After all, I'm living a good life now. It's not impossible to find him later. Aang said with a fierce face. I don't know the relationship between that stranger and Mr. Kia, because he rejected the invitation of the association. However, if you are interested, you can go find him. Maybe he will be willing to accept your commission. After all, some adventurers are unwilling to be bound by the association, but they are very easy to accept the invitation from another adventurer. Moreover, if the stranger is really a powerful adventurer, he will definitely be of great help to your adventure. No, I'm here to accept commissions, not to send commissions. Payment has eaten me out of money. Hey, what does this have to do with me? Aang's words made Payment stomp his feet in the air angrily, saying with great dissatisfaction. Although Aang was complaining, the Skynet in front of him showed that the Golden Commission had turned and moved to another place. It seemed that the destination should be a tavern called Angel's Gift run by Diluc. Thank you, Catherine, I have some clues. After thanking, Aang took payment and left directly, heading towards the direction of Angel's Gift. It's here. Aang looked at the golden road sign at the entrance of the Angel's Gift, but she was a little confused about this mission. She didn't even ask where the person was, but Skynet directly marked the destination. Aang also knew the accuracy of Skynet. After using it so many times, there was basically no error, which made her more curious about Liusu, the creator of Skynet. Pushing open the door, Aang took Pei Meng into the tavern. Looking around, she saw a blonde man in black clothes with a golden mark on his head sitting in the corner. Hello, we are adventurers from the Adventurers Association. The strange man. Pei Meng went up to greet him first, but did not get a response from the man. Just as Pei Meng was about to continue speaking. Hello, my name is Aang, and I'm a traveler. Aang stood by and spoke directly. Traveler. Huh. Why do you want to travel? Pei Meng was puzzled. Because my goal is the Sea of Stars, so that all the worlds will leave my footprints. Aren't you looking for your brother? Pei Meng was even more puzzled. Looking for my brother is just something I did on the way. Aang looked at Pei Meng with disdain. Everything she experienced in another world made Aang change her mind. The feeling of being ignored made her feel uncomfortable. Her goal at this time was to let all the worlds she had experienced know her name. As for her brother, she would find him eventually. Pei Meng. Well, your reason is very good. Sit down. Sit opposite. Is this considered a conversation? What a strange person. Aang and the stranger's words made her feel incredible, and her little brain was about to stop working. The little thing next to you? After Aang sat down, the strange man asked. It's emergency food. Aang's words made Pei Meng jump in anger. Hey, it's totally wrong. But Aang just showed an awkward but polite smile and looked at the angry Pei Meng. It's not bad to have someone to accompany you when traveling. My name is Dane Sleb. What do you want to talk to me about? Aang. What was it? It seemed that she didn't even ask completely, and she ran over. Did she tell him that she was looking for him because there was a golden exclamation mark on his head? Aang touched her chin and thought. Actually, it's the Adventurers Association's recruitment. Okay, Aang. But you have to pay me in advance. Noticing Aang and Pei Meng's confusion, Dane Sleb explained. Remuneration? I haven't asked you for a reward yet. Is your golden mission fake? Liusu, I want to return it. 500 Morris, and 3 questions 500 Morris paid in one lump sum, and the 3 questions will be asked later. Aang, that's it? That's all. Aang breathed a sigh of relief. It was just 500 Morris. Pei Meng tricked her once, and she didn't know how many times he could pay. This kind of reward makes me even more uneasy. I always feel that there will be some problem. Aang didn't answer Pei Meng's words. It would be a problem if the golden mission asked her to pay so much, right? This is obviously not an easy task. Chapter 65 Aang, I choose the 4th one. No problem, take the 500 Mora. Aang gave Dane Sleb 500 Mora. I'll take it. Then there are 3 more questions. You have to answer me here. Do I have to answer all of them correctly? There is no right or wrong answer to a question. It's just a manifestation of different attitudes. I just want to know your choice. You just need to answer it. Aang nodded. Okay, I got it. The first question is that the dragon disaster in Mondstadt was solved by you and the wind god who called himself Wendy. In your opinion, who is the key to ending the dragon disaster? There are 3 choices in front of Aang, Wendy, me, and all the Mondstadt people who work together. Payman was surprised and said, how do you know Wendy is? I know everything I should know. Dainsred said calmly, and Aang's expression did not change. Answer my question. Aang glanced at Dainsred and said, the abyss solved it itself. Aang felt that Dainsred was not right, just like the pufferfish she met, a feeling of mastering everything, which made her very uncomfortable, so she directly gave an inappropriate answer, that is, I choose the 4th one. After hearing this, Dainsred's expression froze obviously. Is this your answer? I know. The second question. The rocking emperor who has protected Liu Port for thousands of years used his own god's heart to sign a contract with unknown content, the so-called end of all contracts. Who do you think will protect Liu Port after the loss of the gods? The immortals, the Liu 7 stars, and everyone in Liu Port. Liusu will protect it. Aang glanced at Dainsred and said. This unexpected answer made Dainsred's expression uneasy again. Who is Liusu? Aang looked at Dainsred strangely. Don't you know this? Ahem. Is this your answer? I see. Then the last question is, in this world, there are people who have obtained the Eye of God and people who have not obtained the Eye of God. Which of these 2 types of people do you think is more important to the gods? Those with the Eye of God and those without the Eye of God are not important. Aang has seen everything that Zhongli and Liusu have done for the development of ordinary people in Liu. For this question, she chose the 4th answer better. I think they are all important to their people. Is this your answer? I see. The answers to Aang's 3 questions were completely beyond Dainsred's expectations. He couldn't help but look at Aang again. Sure enough, you and her are very similar. Aang looked at Dainsred strangely. She noticed that Dainsred was a little unnatural when he said this. It was obvious that this sentence was a lie, which meant that she was not similar to him at all. Who are you talking about? Dainsred. From your expression, I can tell that you are talking about my brother, Sora, right? Dainsred's mouth twitched again when he heard Aang's words, and he changed the subject directly. I'll take the 500 Mora, and I also understand your understanding of the world, a little bit. Then, according to the agreement, you can entrust me with things. Aang glanced at Dainsred, TSK. Payman scratched his head, always feeling that Aang had become strange now, wondering if it was her illusion. However, I only accept commissions related to the Abyss cult. Dainsred ignored the look from Aang and continued. I'm on a journey like you. You are looking for your relatives, and I'm fighting against the Abyss. Then what? Aang did not correct Dainsred's words and continued. Abyss mages are monsters that serve the Abyss, and are the minions of the Abyss cult that spread chaos in this world. I came to Mondstadt this time to track down the traces of the Abyss Apostles. Abyss Apostles? Aang's eyes lit up. He knew it was a new monster, so he could brush up his contribution points. It is a more twisted monster in the Abyss, the leader of the Abyss mages. Where can I find them? Aang's eyes were shining at this time. Dainsred. During this period, the Golden Prayer became popular in Liu reality. People can use their own strength to bless the power of the Holy Law Blade. In other words, the stronger their strength, the more powerful the Holy Law Blade will be. Except for the slogan that needs to be shouted when the golden tree is sworn. The others are actually good. Aang also knew that the slogans of other Liu people were for the Rocking Emperor, but hers was respond to me, Alicia. She also discussed it with Liusu. Liusu said that this is a way to communicate with the divine power. You don't have to shout this sentence. Just shout for the rocking, like other Liu people. Of course, Aang couldn't accept this, and could only accept this slogan. Moreover, the holy attribute has an additional damage bonus to the monsters in the Abyss. No matter what attribute the Abyss mages, their shields are as weak as paper under the blessing of the holy attribute. Dainsred coughed twice, organized his words and said, did you notice that they seem to be ordered by someone to deliberately avoid our route? It sounds so dangerous. Is it to ambush us at a more appropriate time? Don't worry, under the attack of the holy attribute blade, the abyss is just a paper tiger. After hearing what Payman said, Aang said nonchalantly, well, we are very powerful. Payman nodded and agreed with Aang's words. Holy attribute? Dainsreb was silent. Does Teyvat have this attribute? And Aang doesn't look like him at all. Dainsreb is a little suspicious, whether he has found the wrong person. Well, let's go and have a look. According to some clues I have, the Abyss cult once re-entered the temple of the Zephyr Eagle. Let's meet there. Dainsreb left after saying this. Aang and Payman looked at each other and followed closely. There are indeed traces of the Abyss in this unreligious temple. The Zephyr Eagle can soar with the wind, but it always just hovers under the light of the gods. After a long while, Dainsreb stood in front of the temple of the Zephyr Eagle and sighed. Aang asked in confusion, what are you talking about? Nothing. Let's go in quickly. TSK, old riddle man. Aang followed behind Disitas feebly. The breath of the Abyss is getting heavier. After entering the temple of the Zephyr Eagle, Dainsreb sensed it and said, what does an Abyss Apostle look like? Is it similar to an Abyss Mage? Let's move on. If we can see that monster, you will understand it, even if I don't explain it. Dainsreb gave a riddle-like answer to Payman's words, which was equivalent to saying nothing. Along the way, they did encounter quite a few Abyss Mages, but under the holy attribute of Aang's enchantment, they were killed with one sword. There was no challenge at all. Are there really Abyss Apostles here? Why do I only encounter Abyss Mages? Aang killed another fire-type Abyss Mage and said, have you only found those Abyss Mages? It seems that the Abyss Apostles may have left. Can you tell me about the Abyss cult? Aang was particularly concerned about contribution points. The more Abyss monsters she encountered, the more excited she was. The Abyss is chaos and destruction. It is an unpredictable and crazy chaos that erodes the foundation of this world. This is why the East Wind Dragon, a follower of the gods, cannot resist the erosion of the power of the Abyss. And the monsters in the Abyss have no other desire but to overthrow the world ruled by the gods. Dainsreb really knows about the Abyss. It seems that this is impossible, right? Aang thought, stroking his chin. The holy attribute given to him by the Golden Tree made it easy for him to kill the monsters in the Abyss. As the creator of the Golden Tree, how much holy attribute energy should he have? Moreover, the Abyss does not seem to be strong now, because if it is strong, it will not attack the followers of the gods, but directly find the gods themselves. Therefore, Aang concluded that the current Abyss is not as good as the 7 gods. Haha, I have a deep connection with the Abyss. Since the connection is deep, do you know where to find the Abyss? Aang said to Dainsreb expectantly. Okay, enough chatting. We should go to the wolf territory. Aang's attitude made Dainsreb a little confused. It was the Abyss that everyone feared, but in Aang's eyes, it seemed like a treasure. According to my recent tracking, another place where the Abyss cult appeared may be in the territory of that old wolf. Perhaps we can find the Abyss Apostle there. Really? I feel like you are lying to me, Aang said suspiciously. Chapter 66. So, what about the Apostles of the Abyss? Lord of the Wolf Territory, the King Wolf of the North Wind, only has fangs and claws, but it is only here. Are you familiar with it? Aang and Dainsreb stood on the cliff, looking at the attribute seen below. No, I don't know that old wolf, and it doesn't know me either. Aang. The reason I know this is because one of my former travel companions wanted to hear its story. Well, let's go see if the Apostle of the Abyss has been here. Aang. Where should I start looking? Dane standing here, is it related to this strange bonfire? Payman seemed to be correcting something at this time, and suddenly became smart. Yes, floating on the flame is the spell of the Abyss. Dainsreb turned his head, and looked at the bonfire, that Payman pointed to, with strange purple words floating on it. Given the style of the cult, there may be similar ones nearby. Let's search around more. After Dainsreb finished speaking, Aang searched around. After searching for a while, he did see 2 campfires in the breath of the Abyss, but after careful investigation, there were only 2 Abyss Mages and Hill Cullits, and no so-called Abyss Apostles. Have you finished searching? After searching again and still finding nothing, Aang gave up, and returned to where Dainsreb was. There are indeed many traces of the Abyss cult, but where are the Abyss Apostles? After searching for a long time, there are only 2 Abyss Mages. Why are you obsessed with the Abyss Apostles? Dainsreb was puzzled. This traveler had a strong purpose, which was the Abyss Apostles. Because the Abyss Apostles are valuable? Otherwise, why would I look for the Abyss Apostles? Valuable? Dainsreb's originally calm expression changed. Someone is still offering a reward for the Abyss Apostles? Yeah, Abyss Apostle sounds great. It's probably worth several million mora. Aang said while counting on her fingers. Mora is secondary. The main thing is contribution points, which can be exchanged for magic weapons and props. Dainsreb, the one who offered a bounty for Abyss Apostle, is the one who gave you the power of the Saint attribute, right? Yes. Aang admitted Dainsreb's question very frankly. No wonder, this kind of holy attribute power is a great restraint on the Abyss. It seems that the man is also well prepared. Looking at Dainsreb, who fell into deep thought again, Aang said dissatisfiedly, so, where is the Abyss Apostle? I just searched nearby. Those are traces left by the Abyss Wizard. There is no deeper Abyss power. It seems that even the Abyss Apostle is not willing to provoke the King Wolf of the North Wind. Aang glanced at Dainsreb and continued, so, where is the Abyss Apostle? Dainsreb, let's leave too. The only thing that is worthy of praise about that old wolf is its territorial concept. Well, the clue is broken again. Can we only give up? Payman said helplessly. No, there is another place to go. Take action. I'll wait for you at the ruins of the Wind Dragon. Aang always felt that something was wrong. He seemed to be an outsider. After thinking about it, it seemed that Payman was communicating. He just had to follow behind. What was the reason? Aang touched his chin and thought. Until arriving at the ruins of the Wind Dragon, Aang was still thinking about this question, but the more he thought about it, the more he felt that his thoughts were bound by something, and something was wrong. I heard about your deeds in the dragon disaster. When you came, this place was called the Ruins of the Wind Dragon. But now the focus of this place name should be the ruins, not the Wind Dragon. In fact, in my memory, this ruin has nothing to do with the dragon most of the time. When I first saw the ruins of Old Mondstadt, the East Wind Dragon had not yet fallen, let alone come here to build a nest. But I remember that when Teverin had an accident, it was hundreds of years ago. No need to go into it. Payman, you should still remember the light guiding mechanism that once sealed this ruin? Aang, no impression. If the Abyss cult is interested in this ruin, they will definitely not miss these mechanisms. Let's go to a light guiding mechanism first to see the situation. Dainsreb continued to speak, as if he didn't notice Aang's words. Aang. Then Aang followed inexplicably, to find the light guiding mechanism, as if she was controlled by something, but when she moved her body, she felt nothing changed. Walking all the way to the light guiding mechanism, Aang was still thinking, but Payman next to her didn't seem to notice her abnormality. The more she thought, the more she felt that this golden task was wrong. When everyone arrived at the light guiding mechanism, it was just like in the wolf territory. There were only a few hillbillies and abyss mages, and they didn't encounter the so-called Abyss Apostles. Aang solved them with the sword without hesitation. In the end, we still didn't see the Apostles of the Abyss. Payman said regretfully on the side. You don't have to see that kind of monster directly. This shouldn't be called a pity. But I think you will definitely have some encounters with them in the future. No, you're right. Since it's a powerful monster, even if you see it, it's best to go around it. If you can solve the problem of danger during travel by going around it, it would be great. So, what about the Abyss Apostle? Aang seemed to have gotten used to such conversations between Payman and Dainsreb, and then turned to look at Dainsreb. Dainsreb, it's really a talk of experience. Payman continued. It's just that I had some experience when I traveled with that travel companion. Well, Dane, you always talk about travel companions. Where is your travel companion now? Payman and Dainsreb were talking, and Aang walked to the side and sat down, holding her cheeks with both hands, looking at the two of them thoughtfully. I don't know when Aang realized that there was something wrong with this world. This scene seemed to be a fixed program. Even if she didn't say it, at this moment, Payman would ask the question. He no longer travels. Dainsreb pondered for a moment and continued. Because traveling is too tiring. Dainsreb's words made Aang disagree. She felt that the current travel was very meaningful. she also encountered many unexpected things and was accompanied by rewards and surprises, as well as another trip to another world. She suddenly felt that that world was more real than Teyvat. Is that so? Then why is Dane still traveling alone? I still have some things that I haven't finished. After I finish them, I will go home and rest. It's also good to have a home to return to. When we travel, we often have to sleep in the wild. Home. Listening to the conversation between the two, Aang remembered whether she also had a home. Suddenly she thought of the small courtyard she bought in Liusu. She felt very safe sleeping in it every day. Is this a manifestation of home? Hey, Aang, when you find your relatives, let's go there to settle down, right? Paimon suddenly asked Aang. Didn't we settle down there? It's also our home there, right? Aang said. Yes. And there are a lot of delicious food there. Paimon nodded. The small courtyard he bought in Liusu port can be delivered to him every day after he gets up. There is something to do every day, and he feels that every day is fulfilling. Home. Well, wait until your journey reaches the end, then consider where to stay. Danesleb hesitated for a moment during the journey. First, when Danesleb just said this, Aang noticed something and raised his head suddenly. Chapter 67 Aang's Belief. Respond to me, Alicia. Aang suddenly raised the rock green in her hand, and the blessing of the golden tree immediately flowed into her body. She circulated the energy, and a pair of golden wings grew on her back, and flew towards the direction she noticed. Aang. Looking at Aang flying up like a stream of light, Paimon shouted anxiously below. No? How is it possible? I feel it. It's him. Aang stood on it and looked around. This familiar aura was left by her brother Khan. It seemed that the aura had been left for a long time, and it was accompanied by the aura of the abyss. Abyss? You joined the abyss. Is that right? Aang stood on the cliff and slowly raised the rock green in her hand. As the holy law blade was activated, the whole sword turned golden. The abyss and the so-called collapse are not good things in nature. Since you have joined it and have not contacted me for so long, my good brother, how are you going to take this sword? Aang narrowed her eyes and looked at the shining golden sword in her hand, muttering in her mouth. At the same time, Kong in the abyss shuddered involuntarily, as if he was stared at by something terrifying. Your Highness, are you okay? The abyss mage next to him noticed that Khan was not right and said cautiously, it's okay. Khan waved his hand. He didn't feel this inexplicable sense of crisis, which was accompanied by great terror. Aang, did you notice anything? You just flew up suddenly. I thought something happened. At this time, Paimon and Dainsel had already caught up. Can you still feel the familiar breath you mentioned? I can feel it, but I have been walking for a long time. I don't know why I just felt it. Aang shook her head and explained to Dainsel. But there is nothing around here, whether it is people or monsters. Aang. Paimon, do you want to listen to what I said? I said I have been walking for a long time. Did you automatically block my next words? Indeed, there is nothing unusual. The scenery is no different from the last time I came here. Last time? Paimon asked on the side. Well, it's time for the so-called plot again. Aang remembered that in Genshin Impact, she was forced to follow the plot and could only listen to what others said, but when she spoke, the other party seemed not to notice and could only tell some information from inside. This fixed way of promoting the development of the story is called the plot in Liusu's mouth. My travel companion brought me here last time. Then, Dane, what about you? Where is your favorite place? Me. I can't remember, clearly. On that trip, I just accompanied my travel companion all the time. That's all. Aang felt that there must be an invisible big hand behind the scenes pushing all this. The people of Teyvat seemed to be like chess pieces, carrying out a certain plot under the push of the big hand behind the scenes, and the protagonist seemed to be herself. Are there footprints of ruins guards wandering here? Not even a dandelion can rest in peace. When Dainthreb talked about dandelions, Aang lowered her head and saw a dandelion that she had never noticed before. There was an air of emptiness on it. The past suddenly appeared in her mind, and she touched her head painfully. What happened to you just now? Why were you standing there for so long? Nothing. Aang shook her head and said, hey, you mean you felt your brother? But, what's going on? You just touched the dandelion just now. Aang seemed to be holding something back, and felt that, no matter what she said now, she seemed to get a definite answer. Perhaps, this dandelion carries a breath that only you can feel. It's all because of the reason. Did it experience something that was related to you? The possibilities you mentioned are too vague. I have no clue at all. Payman complained dissatisfiedly about what Dainsleib said. No, I have some clues. Aang shook her head and drove the previous experience out of her mind. Don't be anxious. Worry and anxiety are the enemies of the mind. Your journey has just begun, hasn't it? Aang suddenly remembered what Liusu said in another world. When the world's push has been separated, the world's will correct this matter, so it is also the reason why you can't cause harm. So what is happening now is the correction of the world's consciousness. According to the plot, maybe Aang really might think according to the current thinking. At least, now you know that she is still in this world. At this moment, the most important thing is this journey to find her. Is it the correction of the world's consciousness? Aang ignored Dainsleib's words. Anyway, he can continue to talk in this situation. We will definitely find it. Payman said on the side. This sentence is indeed suitable to be kept in mind at all times as the meaning behind the journey. I wish you can find your blood relatives at the end of your journey. Then, let's say goodbye here temporarily. Hey, are you leaving? Payman said a little reluctantly. I'm just leaving for now. Don't worry, we'll see each other again. After all, I've taken 500 mora from you, and there are 3 answers. So, what about the Abyss Apostle? Where can I find him? When Dainsleib was about to leave, Aang raised his head and asked suddenly, if you want to find it, go to the place where the abyss is the thickest. That is, the Abyss Spiral and the Abyss Moon Spiral. There, you may be able to find them. Look to the right from the Cape of Oath in Mondstadt. There is a small island called Musk Reef. There is a door on the island, and it is inside. After saying that, Dainsleib left. Abyss Spiral, Abyss Moon Spiral. The first 2 words together are exactly abyss. Payman said to the crowd. Let's go there and have a look, but there's not much hope. Aang nodded and suddenly remembered something and continued. Payman, didn't you hear what I said just now? What did you say? Then under Aang's question, Payman told everything that had just happened. In Payman's eyes, all his lines were changed, and they were completely different from what he said. Even when he was talking below, he was sitting, but in Payman's eyes, he was standing and communicating with them. I see. Aang nodded and didn't say anything else. It was useless to tell Payman about the world consciousness. Let's see if I can change anything when the time comes. Liusu Harbor. At this time, in Liusu's yard, Liusu and Aang were sitting in the pavilion while Payman went to eat on the side. You understand what you said correctly. It is indeed a correction of the world consciousness. Because you are now much stronger than the original arrangement, you can find these things that are wrong. After listening to Aang's experience, Liusu thought for a while and said, so is this world real? Just like you and Payman. It can be real, or it can be unreal. If the world perishes, then we are unreal. If this world still exists, then we are real. You should pick out the key points. This is a bit confusing for me. Aang scratched his head and said, it basically means that Teyvat is on the verge of destruction. When this world is gone, I think it is the Heavenly Justice Maintainer who is protecting the continent of Teyvat and preventing this world from being invaded by the Abyss. Then why did the Heavenly Justice Maintainer take action against my brother at that time? You are about to make the world collapse. It would be a problem if she didn't take action against you. Aang thought of the big things she had done with Kong and went to Sky Island and scratched her head embarrassedly. So, what should I do now? Is the Abyss good or bad? I can't explain this clearly, but the Abyss is harmful to ordinary people and to the world. So fighting the Abyss is actually protecting the world. You have also been to that world. The Abyss and the collapse are similar. The purpose is to destroy, so people will resist, but that world is much more stable than Teyvat. If that world is a leaf that is being eaten, and Teyvat is a leaf that is almost half eaten, one day, as the leaf falls to the ground, Teyvat will also be destroyed. So now you should work hard to become stronger, to the point where the world can change for you. I know, I will work hard to become stronger. Aang said confidently with his fists clenched. There will be reunions and partings on the journey. There will be joy and sadness. But as long as you are strong enough, then the regrets you encounter along the way will also be changed by you. Chapter 68 Windflower Festival. As the information about the Mondstadt Windbloom Festival spread, Aang went there just by smelling it. After all, when traveling, such a large festival must not be missed, so just treat it as a way to relax yourself. Originally, I thought that the Windbloom Festival would be as busy as the Lantern Festival in Liu, but Aang asked almost everyone she knew, even the Adventurers Guild, and still couldn't find any help. Paimon and Aang finally found Flora, the owner of the flower language shop, who was explaining the Windbloom Festival to Aang and Paimon. Is the Windbloom Festival a festival for wind or a festival for planting flowers? Paimon asked curiously. The Windflower Festival is a traditional festival in Mondstadt, and it is also a festival of freedom and love. The Windflower Festival celebration is a carnival in Mondstadt. At this time of year, people will present windflowers to Lord Barbatus, the god of wind, to show their respect and love. In addition, there is also a tradition of giving flowers to loved ones and important people. Every time the Windflower Festival comes, the store is very busy. It's also a kind of happy trouble for me, hoo-hoo. Aang listened and asked curiously, what is the windflower? The windflower is the symbol of the Windflower Festival. It represents the spirit of freedom and wind. So what exactly is the windflower? Hoo-hoo. That's a long story. In response to Paimon's question, Flora chuckled and continued, my grandmother said that she was not born when the windflower was born. It should have been hundreds of years ago. I don't know the reason, but people seem to choose dandelions as windflowers for gifts. In other words, the windflower that Mondstadt people refer to is dandelions. Hoo-hoo, probably. Actually I'm not sure, but our family has always felt so. No. A voice of objection came from behind. Aang had some impression of him. His name seemed to be Quinn. Ahem. I happened to hear what you said, and I couldn't help but. Are you talking about the windflower? Quinn scratched his head and said embarrassedly, realizing that his tone was too loud. It's Quinn from the fruit stall. Are you going to join us too? Paimon greeted happily, as if she remembered the owner of the food very clearly. No, I just came to correct it. The windflower is not a dandelion, but a windmill chrysanthemum. Hey, Quinn. Hello. Flora greeted Quinn. Flora, there should be a lot of people coming to your store to buy windmill chrysanthemums recently, right? Yes. Flora nodded with a smile. See, this is our windmill chrysanthemum faction contributing to sales. Flora's approval made Quinn say happily with his hands on his waist. Windflower is not only the symbol of Mondstadt, but also the embodiment of windmills, representing wind and freedom. It is none other than the windflower. Trust me, the authentic windflower of Mondstadt is definitely the windflower. Flora, a dandelion fan, asked in a questioning tone. Is that so? At this time, a female voice came from behind again. Hey, B, you're here too. Windflower, isn't it Cecilia? B obviously disagreed with Quinn's point of view. Ah, really? Paimon was even more confused. How come there are 3 kinds of flowers now? Windflower is Cecilia. This is the first time I've heard of it. Flora's head was also full of question marks at this time. Listen to me, the definition of windflower is indeed controversial, but Mondstadt people generally believe that windflower is either dandelion or windflower. Quinn rejected B's suggestion mercilessly. In his opinion, this was even less reliable than the windflower being a dandelion. These two flowers have their own history. You can find out by asking around. As for Cecilia flower, I have never heard of it. What did you say? B.I. leaned forward and glared at Quinn with an angry face. I'm just telling the truth. Don't glare at me. You. Humph, forget it. I won't talk to you anymore. B.I. trotted away after saying that. Hey, B.I. After calling out a few times, B.I. didn't turn back. Quinn scratched his head in confusion. Strange. Why are you angry? What did I say wrong? This is what everyone knows about the windflower. Quinn said to Aang and Flora in confusion. Paimon scratched his head, not knowing what to say. Aang hurriedly said, I'm new here and don't know the local customs. Hey, how about I go and apologize to her after closing the stall? Although I don't understand why she is angry, I accept the fact that I should apologize. Maybe this is life. After saying that, Quinn left. From his back, Aang seemed to see a bit of loneliness, as if she would become like this in the future. Thinking of this, she suddenly threw this strange idea out of her mind. Look at the two of them, there is really a festive atmosphere. Flora looked at the two people who had left, and said with a smile. At this time, Aang suddenly heard a familiar voice from behind. Aang, Payman, you are here too. It is estimated that only Liusu called himself Aang, and even Payman called himself Traveler most of the time. Hey, it's Liusu, Ganyu and Keking, and that woman. Why are you all here? How dare you? Which woman? Liuan said dissatisfiedly to Payman, calling him that woman again. Hey, are you also here to participate in the Windflower Festival? Payman scratched his head and said, of course, come here to have a look. I heard that the Windflower Festival is pretty good, and by the way, take a look at that Jiamengzi. Liusu said on the side. Jiamengzi? Are you talking about the street singer? Payman was surprised. Jiamengzi? It reminded her of the drunkard singing wind god. Yes, that's him. Liusu, do you know what the windflower is? Aang asked curiously. In her opinion, as the former god of wisdom, he must know. That, I don't know, but you can ask Jiamengzi. Yes, as the wind god, he must know what the windflower is. Paimeng said with sudden enlightenment. But you are all here, what should Liu do? Paimeng asked curiously. A god, an immortal, a half-immortal and the Liu 7 stars. Now they are teaming up to run to Mondstadt. Just because Zhongli is retiring, can't I take a vacation? Ganyu and Keking are also here. Because of Skynet, they don't know what to do in Liu every day. I brought them here to let them relax. Liusu, we are actually doing well in Liu. Liusu, please let me work overtime again. Ganyu said in a low voice. You just want to give up the idea of working overtime. This is impossible. Keking will take good care of her here. Okay. Keking agreed without saying a word, smiled and took Ganyu's hand and left. Liusu's words hit the mark. Hey. Ganyu was carried away by Keking, and looked at Liuan for help. Liuan turned his head away, didn't even look at Ganyu, and let her be pulled away by Keking. The editor said tomorrow that this book will be promoted. I'm very happy. It is really not easy to get 1,000 collections by relying on smart promotion. I would also like to thank all the readers for their monthly tickets, recommendation tickets, and follow-up reading. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Unexpected Visitors. It seems that Wendy and Aang both have statues. Should we also erect one for Zhongli in Liu Harbor when we go back? Liusu walked to Mondstadt Square, looked at the huge statue of the god of wind, stroked his chin and thought. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this method was feasible. I will also help. Using the fairy mechanism, the statue of the emperor can be made more vivid, which is definitely better than the statues of the other two countries. Liusu and Liuan looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Why are all gods so unserious? Payman spread his hands and said to Aang. Aang. It's the street singer. He is here as expected. Payman pointed at Wendy in the crowd and said. Singer, what are you doing? There are so many people around you. After everyone walked over, Payman once again exerted the power of the mouth of God. Yeah, you came just in time. Look at my many students. How are they? Awesome, right? Your students? Liusu said suspiciously. They are still very impressive. Hey, why are you here? Wendy turned around and said in surprise when he heard the voice. I heard that you guys are holding the Windflower Festival in Mondstadt, so I came to see it. I'm almost rusty from fishing in Liu every day. Wendy showed an awkward but polite smile. He didn't know how to respond to this sentence. Tell me, what are all these students of yours for? Are they slacking off to learn? Hey, don't think of me like that. This is such a big blow to me. The students you are talking about are those who scratch their heads. Liusu looked around, and it seemed that there was no serious person. How can you say they are scratching their heads? They are actively using their brains to compose words of love. Really? I don't understand at all. I just think it's suspicious. Even Payman didn't believe Wendy's words. Haha, you should have heard about the Windflower Festival, right? Wendy chuckled to ease the embarrassment and changed the subject. Do you like monster to immersed in the atmosphere of the festival like this? It's okay. This kind of festival feels like my daily life. Liusu nodded in agreement. Don't you fish in your daily life? Payman asked on the side. Yeah, fishing and slacking off are similar. They mean the same thing. Hey, don't say that in front of me. At least give me some face. Although what you said is true, you can't say it out loud. Well, that means you like it. Speaking of which, you seem to have nothing to do recently. Yes, I have something to do. I have to go fishing. I heard that Fruit Wine Lake and Starfall Lake are good, and they are great places for fishing. Hey, are you really fishing? I have seen you fishing, let alone bait. You don't even have a hook. Wendy was shocked. How could there be a god who is more idle and slacking off than herself? Isn't it time to come to a new place to experience it again? What if a fish is caught? Liusu said with a fierce face. Okay. By the way, travelers, are you okay? You've also noticed that the people of Mond are now wandering around in broad daylight with no commissions and no one to help. Ahaha, now that you realize this, you have a preliminary understanding of the Windflower Festival. What? You're talking about slacking off so nicely, and you look so proud of it. Payman crossed his arms and said with dissatisfaction. The Windflower Festival not only belongs to the god of wind, but also to the people of Mond who are eager for love. If you want to gain love, you have to do everything yourself during the festival. Not only that, some people also use this festival to fulfill other emotional demands. It's normal that you don't get commissions. This is the tradition of the Windflower Festival. But don't worry, with me here, you will never feel lonely. After Wendy finished speaking, in Ying's sight, a blue exclamation mark suddenly appeared above Wendy's head. Also, it's time to lead you to have a deeper understanding of the humanities and customs of Mond. So come on, be my assistant. Okay. Ying agreed without saying a word. How could I not accept a mission? Is this still me, the traveler? Ahaha, do you see these troubled residents? Wendy pointed at the people scratching their heads and said, they came to ask me for love tips, saying they want to learn how to write love poems. Of course I agreed, so I can charge tuition. Later they will come to me to confide their emotional troubles, and I will provide advice based on their position and predicament. Originally, these are my jobs, but, seeing that you are too idle, I will leave it to you. Do I look idle? Ying touched her chin and thought. She felt that she was either working or on the way to work. There were only 4 hours when she was forced to rest. It seemed that she was quite idle. You have been to so many places and have seen a lot. These experiences must not be wasted. Please help them. You speak so nicely of the messenger, singing for money. Are you short of money? A wind god actually did such a thing to make money. Even Payman couldn't understand it. There is a limited amount of new wine at the Windflower Festival. I have to save some money to join the carnival shopping. A drunkard Payman said with disdain. May the wind god fool you. Liusu made a prayer gesture and whispered. Hey, it's protection, not fooling, and your voice is too loud. Hey, Wendy. Under Wendy's trickery, Payman and Ying went to solve the problem for others, and Wendy also gave hints on the side. Just answer according to the action given in the question. Put your hands on your hips if you think this thing is feasible. Touch your chin in thought if you need to consider this thing, and cross your hands on your chest if you don't think this thing is feasible. Aren't you the wind god? How do you know so much about love? Hey, I'm a poet. Of course I know about love. Wendy said proudly with her hands on her hips. Let's do some serious work, Barbatus. Hey, let's be evenly matched, okay? Why are you still complaining about me, leaving Zumi to that little grass god, and going to Liu to fish by yourself? I really don't know what you think. Are you talking about me? A small voice suddenly came from the side, and Liusu and Wendy turned their heads at the same time. Oh my god, why are you here? Wendy almost jumped up in shock. How did this green badminton come to Mond? Are the grass gods running around now, leaving traces of grass element all over Teyvat? Nashida, why are you in Mond? Liusu was also surprised. Wasn't Nashida still imprisoned in the Genshin Palace at this time? I ran away secretly. Anyway, Zumi doesn't need me now. The consciousness you left behind, Dassy Tree King, helped me escape from the Genshin Palace. The heart of God is still there, and your consciousness, Dassy Tree King, is still maintaining the void terminal of Zumi. Liusu, what should I do? Things seem to be getting more and more wrong. My consciousness that Nashida mentioned? That is Dassy Tree King, right? She actually let Nashida out. Does Zumi simply not want God? Chapter 70 Wenda's mission. So, why did you come to Mondstadt? You should have gone to Liu. Liusu felt that her brain was not enough at this time. The plot seemed to have gone completely wrong. The little grass god flew with wings. Although she could fly, she shouldn't appear at this time. Well, I didn't find you in Liu, and then I met Zhongli. He told me that you came to Mondstadt to participate in the Windflower Festival, so he brought me here. Impossible. How could the old man come to participate in the Windflower Festival in Mondstadt? If you come by yourself, you come by yourself. Wendy shook his head without thinking. In his opinion, it was unrealistic for Zhongli to come. In terms of universal rationality, the Windflower Festival is indeed a good festival. Liusu. A familiar voice came from behind, and you didn't need to guess who it was. Wendy turned his head stiffly, and sure enough, he saw Zhongli walking towards her calmly. Old man. Wendy shouted, it's just a Windflower Festival, are you guys so serious? 3 more gods have come. I thought you were going to attack me, and it seems that the 3 gods are on the same side. I can't defeat them, even if I take action. Well, long time no see. Thanks to you last time. Zhongli nodded. Are you Liu going to attack Mondstadt? How many people have come? Wendy said vigilantly. At present, it seems that 2 gods, 2 immortals, and 1 Liu 7 stars have come. Zhongli touched his chin and said, from a universal rational point of view, you can't defeat 2 gods, so there is no need to struggle in vain. Wendy, old man, this joke is not funny. And, how have you changed now? The golden tree now covers the entire Liu, and countless blessing points are scattered all over Liu. As Zhongli, he can check the situation of Liu anytime and anywhere, and he can also return to Liu directly through the blessing points. So at this time, after Nashida arrived, he had the idea of taking the little grass god to Mondstadt to take a look. Since life has become more open-minded in the future, walking around more and relaxing yourself can be a way to eliminate wear and tear. Great kindness Tree King, I finally meet you. Nashida stood in front of Liusu with a sweet smile. Don't call me Great Kindness Tree King, Liusu said helplessly. Nashida blinked her big eyes and said, then, what should I call you? Mother? Liusu's mouth twitched, and she said with a tiger face, didn't I say it? Call me Liusu. Okay, Liusu. The disappointment on Nashida's face was beyond words. Liusu. Now this is the Windflower Festival, not the Grass God competition. What's the matter with your strong grass element? While the gods were talking, Aang also began to play freely. Wendy completely forgot what he had said to Aang before. 3 gods came at once, which made him a little unacceptable. Wendy seems to have encountered something. It seems that she can't give us a hint. Let's solve it ourselves. Payman turned around and saw Zhongli and a little girl saying to Aang. Aang turned around and saw Zhongli and Nashida were there and suddenly understood what Payman was talking about. Aang, I heard that you sought help from the bud over there. He has something going on right now, and we are his assistants. Tell us about your troubles. Payman said to Wendy who was still talking to Liusu and Zhongli. Okay. Since the bard has something going on. Marvin also saw that the bard seemed to be talking to someone like a friend, and he was also curious about how the poet could have friends. Actually, I have someone I like. Marvin said hesitantly, after brewing his emotions for a while. Is it the woman who was with you on the star-picking cliff? Aang suddenly thought of something. No wonder she felt that the man in front of her looked familiar. When she went to pick Cecilia flowers, she saw the 2 of them many times. Yes, it's her. How did you know? I saw you guys at night when I was picking Cecilia flowers at Star Picking Cliff. I felt you looked familiar when I saw you. So that's it. Her name is Mera. She's cute and hardworking. Whenever she has time, she helps with the farm work at home. Sometimes she's too tired and will just doze off on a bench by the roadside. Hearing this, Marvin was relieved. Now that the other party knew, he didn't seem to be so nervous, as the saying goes, playing badly. Where is she from? Payman asked. No, she lives in Kingpin Town, which is a certain distance away from me. And, because of my family. In a word, because our two families have very different backgrounds, my father has always opposed us being together. As you can see, Mera and I have agreed that when we want to meet, we'll go to Star Picking Cliff to watch the stars together. Yeah, it sounds like it's going well. Payman nodded and said with a smile. Yes, so what I want to discuss is more about my father than Mera. My father is conservative and very strict. But it's also my fault that I never told him the truth. I'm wondering if I take this opportunity to present the windflower to my father and formally ask for his consent, will he support us? Marvin looked at Aang expectantly and asked. Payman, what do you want to say? I want to tell him that, although Mera's family is not rich, her kind heart and hard-working hands are good things that can't be bought with any amount of money. Am I too naive? I'm afraid he will scold me. Woo woo. I support you. As long as your intentions are conveyed and you discuss it with your father, this matter will definitely succeed. Without Wendy's reminder, Aang said according to her own thoughts. So that's how it is. I understand. Thank you. Payman added curiously, but you said that the person you presented flowers to was your father. What about Mera? Didn't you express your feelings to her? Now that you mention it, I was going to ask Mr. Poet how to write love poems. Don't worry, he's very busy now. After Aang finished speaking, she looked back and saw 4 gods and a fairy observing her from behind the tree, especially Wendy and Nashida, whose curious eyes were wide open. This behavior made Aang's mouth twitch uncontrollably, and she didn't finish her words. After hearing Aang's words, Marvin looked back and saw that Wendy was gone. Say, that's right, I want to give her flowers too. I'll pick them later. Thank you for your advice. After Marvin finished speaking, he seemed to have unloaded a heavy burden, and his body floated away. Payman and Aang looked at each other and began to look for the next target. Chapter 71 Aang's Approach. Hey, I heard that you have troubles to tell the bud over there. We are his assistants. Tell us your troubles. Payman greeted Irene directly. You are the honorary knight and his friends. I didn't expect to meet you here, so I'll be frank. The person I want to present flowers to is Jane, the acting leader of the Knights of Favonius. You should be quite familiar with Lady Jane, right? She is a very upright and hard-working person, with both talent and a spirit of hard work. She is sincere, kind, and gentle at the same time. Irene's words gave Payman goosebumps, and he quickly interrupted. I see. Let's skip the evaluation part. It's true that he is trapped by Jane. Aang nodded with a tiger face, stroking his chin. Payman, Aang, what are you talking about? Sorry, I get a little excited when I talk about Lady Kin. At this time tomorrow, I will write the poem, bring a bouquet of freshly picked dandelions to Lady Kin's office, and hand the flowers to the guard on duty. It's just that it's really hard to decide between this bouquet of flowers and this poem. Well, it's better not to sign your name. Isn't it normal to sign your name? Why bother about this? If Lady Kin finds out about the signature, with her serious personality, she will probably come to me to thank me and give her a return gift. She is always busy, and I think she doesn't need to bother to accept my gift. I will be satisfied to put this bouquet of flowers on her desk. But if it's not signed, she will have to find out who sent it to her. Wouldn't that cause more trouble for Kin? Aang thought for a while and said, in her opinion, Kin really did everything herself, from the big things in Mondstadt to finding cats for the residents of Mondstadt. So that's how it is. I see. So I should write my name down after all? Anyway, thank you for your advice. I will think about it seriously. Payman encouraged happily. You're welcome. Come on, that's weird. Look again. Tasselcat was next to Nasida, resting his chin on Nasida's head, staring at Aang as she dealt with these things until Irene left. Wendy, if you want to complain, just say it. It's not like you to be so reserved. Nasida doesn't understand it either. Obviously, that Irene is so happy, why does she have to pretend to be calm and say that she wants to think seriously? Nasida blinked and stared at Irene, who was leaving, and said below, Zhongli, in terms of universal rationality, I don't understand it either. Wendy, how come these three gods are even less reliable than me, or I can't keep up with their thinking? People over there, are you seeking help from the bard? We are his assistants. Tell us your troubles. After finding the target, Payman went straight up. Hey, is that okay? Well, then I'll tell you. Albert said, but his expression was not polite at all, but very excited. I like Mond's idol, Lady Barbara, very much. You should know her, right? She is the cutest one in the West Wind Church. She is cute and gentle, always supporting the people of Mond with her smile and singing. Because I like Lady Barbara, I even made friends with like-minded people, which means, yeah, Barbara, go for it. Aang agreed beside him. Albert, you have said everything I want to say, what else can I say? Ahem, you probably guessed it. Yes, I'm the president of Barbara's fan club. But if you are also a fan of Lady Barbara, honorary knight, I will give you the identity of the president. Albert said reluctantly, but with a little relief. But Aang, who is an honorary knight, is better than him at being the president of Barbara's fan club. I don't need it. Aang said with a tangled face. She was just talking nonsense, and didn't really want to be the president of Barbara's fan club. Okay, but I shoulder the high hopes of all the members and swear to send blessings to Lady Barbara on this special day. Albert was relieved by Aang's refusal, but he didn't know why he felt a little disappointed. He calmed down and continued, of course, as an adult with common sense, I will definitely not disturb the idol's life. So while waiting to meet the bard, I have already thought of putting the flowers picked by the members of the fan club into a giant flower statue and send it to the back door of the church as a surprise for her. How about you put these flowers into a statue of the god of wind? Barbara will definitely like this. Aang reminded in a low voice. Yes, is that so? I almost forgot that Miss Barbara is the most loyal believer of the god of wind. Thank you for your suggestion, honorary knight. After hearing Aang's words, Albert said excitedly, Wendy. Wendy didn't know what to say, especially since the four people next to him were still looking at him. He didn't expect Aang to do this. As for the love poem, we don't need guidance. We plan to write a poem at our own pace and hang it on the giant statue. Albert continued to speak excitedly, and the more he spoke, the more he felt that this thing was feasible. Are you talking about the giant statue? It's about 2 stories high, yeah. Albert said with his hands on his hips and a smug look on his face. Isn't it a bit disturbing to others? Aang didn't expect Albert to play such a big game. It really is a giant statue. But it's very sincere, isn't it? Lady Barbara will definitely feel the blazing love in our hearts after seeing that. What do you think of this idea? Albert looked at Aang expectantly and asked. I think, but no matter how you think about it, it won't work, right? You still say you are an adult with common sense. Where is your common sense? And Aang, how can you agree with this unreliable decision? Before Aang finished speaking, Payment stood up to object, and it seemed that Aang actually thought this method was feasible. Aang, ahem. Huh. But, gifts should be memorable. Albert scratched his head, and Aang nodded slightly. You will be taken away by the Knights of Favonius like this. It's too disturbing. Payman said dissatisfiedly. But, no buts. Payman refused loudly, which scared Aang, who was thinking next to him. Oh, okay, I got it. Albert said helplessly. Thank you for your advice, then I'll take my leave. Albert left disappointed. Obviously, the honorary knights all agreed with his idea, but it was rejected by the flying object. What a pity. Payman, this guy's in a hurry to leave. Aang, yeah. Payman, next, let's go find Wendy. Chapter 72. This is my friend. Singer, we gave those guys suggestions as you said. Is that all? Wendy remembered Aang's suggestion to Albert just now, and the corners of her mouth twitched. It's done very well. Thank you for your hard work. What Wendy said in her heart is, I really thank you for giving Albert that kind of advice. Nashida added from behind. Wendy. Eyeing. Don't peek at my thoughts. It's very rude. Nashida blinked her big eyes and tilted her head to make a cute gesture. Hey. Wendy rubbed his head and gave Nashida a helpless look. Why are all the grass gods the same? The big one is like this, and the small one is like this too. He can only change the subject and say, next, let's see if there are other people who need help. What are you talking about? Can you take me with you? It's Kaya. Do you also want to ask about emotional problems? Wendy turned his head and said to the person who came. Haha, the best bard must also be the best love consultant. I have no doubt about that. Kaya replied with a smile, then turned to look at Liusu and the others. Who are these? They are my friends. They are also friends of travelers. Wendy explained. Friends? Kaya pondered, with a gleam in his eyes. I see. Since they are friends of the bard, they are also friends of our monster. Kaya had noticed something, and continued the topic. Kaya saw that the few people were just watching, and didn't say anything, so he turned to Wendy and said, but you have other business, right? You mean, guiding others to write love poems? Wendy said, touching his chin. That's right. I heard that you were teaching a class in the square, so I came here to sign up immediately. Huh. I didn't expect Kaya to want to write love poems too. Yes, so I want to sign up for a crash course. Why? I think with your eloquence, you don't need my guidance at all. Just tell me if you are willing to accept me as your student. Haha, of course I'm willing. How can I not make money when it comes to my doorstep? Aang listened to the conversation between the two, and then during the debate between the two big scammers, Aang inexplicably received another task. Aang. Great. What they say is completely different from what they think. Nashida looked at the two curiously and said, well, this is what is called saying one thing and thinking another, right? Zhongli said, touching his chin. Liusu, may the wind god fool you. Hey, you guys are so mean. Are you so mean? After all, we are all colleagues. Wendy listened to the speeches of the gods and felt that her fists were hardened, but she gave up the idea of seeking a fight and could only complain dissatisfiedly. TSK. Liusu glanced at Wendy with his eyes slanted and uttered an unknown syllable. Wendy, as a grass god, you have taken all the bamboo shoots on the mountain. The new grass god is better, although he likes to read minds randomly. TSK. Nashida imitated Liusu's movements and uttered this unknown syllable in the same, but slightly cute way. Okay, I admit that I thought too much. Wendy felt very uncomfortable. Nashida's cute movements were not cute at all in his eyes. Wendy, as an old friend for many years, don't you have to show your appreciation when we come to Mond? Liusu watched Kaya leave and suddenly said to Wendy with a smile. Show. Show what? Wendy said vigilantly. He felt that this smiling grass god must have a lot of bad intentions. You should at least treat us a meal, right? For example, Mond's special food or something. This. Wendy had a bitter face. It seemed to be the case, but he had no money now. Treat Liusu and others like this? Since you are the friends of the bard, we, as the Mondstadt Knights, will entertain you on his behalf. Kia also knew that Venti had no money and could not entertain so many people. Kia suspected that the people in front of him were gods like Venti, because Venti had said before that he and the people in front of him were colleagues, and the colleagues mentioned by Venti were definitely not bards. Because the people in front of him did not look like bards at all, there was only one possibility, that these three people were gods, including the child who was the same age as Klee. No, don't bother the knights. After all, we are looking for Venti, and I believe Venti can solve it. Liusu's words made Venti look at Kia for help, and Kia spread his hands to show that he had no way. Well, in terms of universal rationality, it is true. Zhongli also understood that they were all gods. In Liu, he used his own money to entertain Venti and did not bother the Liu 7 stars, so it was reasonable for Liusu to do so in Mondstadt. Venti, you have finished talking. What else can I say? Okay. In the end, Wendy could only sigh helplessly. He had no money again. The tavern experience card that Zhongli had given him had been used up long ago. Hey, the street singer is treating us. We want to go too. Payman said loudly beside him. Okay, let's go together. Wendy had a bitter face. It didn't make any difference whether he treated 4 people or 6 people. Anyway, he couldn't pay the bill now. Haha, it's really interesting. Looking at the people leaving, Kiaya touched his chin and thought. If he guessed correctly, the one in yellow and black clothes should be the rock god Morax. As for the woman in the white dress, she should be the grass god. He didn't know about the little guy. There was another one who should be a follower of the god similar to the wind dragon, because Liuan hadn't spoken a word. But Kiaya also saw that these gods had a good relationship with Wendy, otherwise Wendy wouldn't have looked like he had a bitter face, but didn't show any resistance. Mondstadt, Deer Hunter restaurant, come on, bring all the special dishes of Mondstadt to the side. I haven't tried them yet. Liusu picked up the menu and said to the waiter without even looking at it. There are many special dishes in Mondstadt. I wonder if you can finish them all? The waiter of the Deer Hunter reminded. It's okay. Just watch the dishes being served slowly. If you see that there are not many dishes left, just order one more. Liusu waved her hand and said unceremoniously. Well, I got it. I wish you a pleasant meal. The waiter took the menu and left. Since they wanted everything, there was no need to order. Wow, Liusu, you really know how to eat. But does the street singer have money to pay the bill? Payman said on the side. Don't worry about that. We are guests now, and they will definitely not let us pay. Yes, it's rare for Wendy to treat us. I also want to have a good meal. Aang also said excitedly. In her opinion, it is a difficult thing to be treated by God, especially Wendy and Zhongli. You guys, hey, I worked so hard for so long to get this salary. I was thinking about buying some wine. Wendy wanted to say something, but under the gaze of several people, he finally sighed helplessly. He felt sorry for his Mora, and originally planned to buy a few bottles of limited wine at the Windbloom Festival, but now the arrival of several gods made his wish come to nothing. Amid the laughter and joy of the crowd, the meal lasted until the evening, and everyone had a satisfied expression on their faces, of course, except for Wendy, who was forced to pay the bill. Only he had a bitter face, especially Aang, who couldn't close his mouth with a smile, and Payman also lay on the chair with satisfaction, touching his bloated belly, smacking his lips happily. Wow, 100,000 Mora. How can you eat so much? When it came time to pay the bill, Wendy was dumbfounded, looking at a long page of bills, and heartbrokenly handed over the few Mora he earned at the Windbloom Festival. By the way, isn't there a Dawn Winery in Mondstadt? There should be a tavern in Mondstadt too, and you have to drink enough after eating, right? Liusu continued. Wendy, it hurts. It hurts so much. Liusu, why do you do this to me? Chapter 73 Forced Wendy. Hey, let's go. I'll treat you. Since he treated her once, he would treat her twice, so Wendy went all out. Wow, it's so miserable to be a street singer. Payman looked at Wendy with a bitter face, and said to Liusu, who was smiling with narrowed eyes. Yeah, that's right, poor Wendy. Aang nodded and agreed with Payman's words. While feeling the warm and leisurely atmosphere of the Windbloom Festival, everyone walked towards the angel's gift with a smile, leaving Wendy alone with a bitter face behind. Wendy, people's joys and sorrows are not shared by each other. I just think they are a bit noisy. Hey, Grandpa Diluc, why are you here today? Payman asked curiously when he saw Diluc standing at the bar as soon as he entered the door. Generally speaking, Diluc would not be here. It's you. Because of the Windbloom Festival, I gave Charles a day off, so I came to see for myself. Diluc said with a cold face. His personality was completely inconsistent with his fiery red hair and the fire-attributed god's eye. What would you like to drink? Miners cannot drink alcohol, but there are still a lot of juices here. Well, okay, let's have a few glasses of juice. Let me see what we have to drink. Liusu walked over and looked at the list. Let's try some sea idea, wine, and dandelion wine. Zhongli, what would you like to drink? Liusu said to Zhongli after ordering. Well, they all look good, so I want them all. Zhongli just took a glance and decided. Old man, you are really ruthless. Wendy listened to Zhongli's heroic speech and looked at Zhongli dimly. Unexpectedly, Zhongli was the one who hid the deepest Compared with Zhongli, Liusu was really a small witch compared to Zhongli in terms of ripping him off. He wants everything. It's really his character. Payman said quietly on the side. Nashida, Liuan, do you want a drink? As for me, I'll also have a glass of cider and wine. Liuan said after thinking for a while. Me. Nashida also wants to drink. Nashida said on tiptoe beside Liusu. Go away, why would a child drink alcohol? Liusu directly extinguished her idea. I'm not young anymore, I'm already 500 years old. Nashida replied dissatisfiedly. No, I can't drink alcohol, order juice. Okay. Under Liusu's tough attitude, Nashida had to give up this idea. Then, under Wendy's gaze, Nashida ordered a portion of all the juices except the wine. Wendy. By the way, Wendy, remember to pay the bill, we'll go first. After saying that, the few of them went upstairs and found a secluded place to sit down. Wendy, you pay the bill? Dilek looked at Wendy suspiciously. Although he knew that the person in front of him was the god of wind, he still had to pay for the wine. Yes, don't worry, Wendy said with a bitter face, without explaining too much, and then ordered a few more drinks that she liked and went upstairs. Dilek looked at Wendy who went upstairs, thinking about something, and then started to mix the wine. It tastes okay. Liusu picked up a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Except for a little grape fragrance, there was no other feeling at all. There was no taste of wine at all, just like a glass of grape juice. Hey, this is not how you drink wine, Wendy said with great sorrow as she watched Liusu gulp down a glass of wine. It's almost the same, just like a drink. Liusu waved her hand, not caring about these details, and picked up the next glass to continue gulping it down. Wendy watched Liusu drink the wine like water, and she drank the apple wine in small sips while feeling heartbroken. Well, not bad. Zhongli picked up a glass of wine and took a sip, as if he was drinking tea, and commented calmly, Wendy, what's wrong with you? One of you drinks wine like water, and the other drinks wine as tea. This is a waste. I firmly resist your behavior of wasting fine wine. It's sweet and cold, and it tastes good. Nashida took a sip of the juice, and her eyes lit up. She had never tasted something so delicious before. For Nashida, it is better to say that she has never drunk anything so delicious since she was born. Hey, Nashida, you think it tastes good too, right? Me too. Payman said with a smile. Amid the laughter of the crowd, time passed quietly, and a pile of wine glasses had piled up in front of Zhongli. Old man, no way, you really finished all of them? Wendy could not have imagined that Zhongli actually drank all the wine and juice he ordered, and did not leave a single glass. Well, it tastes okay. Zhongli nodded. Wendy, since Zhongli has finished drinking, then Wendy, let's pay the bill. Liusu said on the side. The total is 210,000 mora. Because of the Windflower Festival, I will give you a small amount, so it's 200,000 mora. Dilek came over and took out a small notebook and said to Wendy, 200,000? Wendy had a bitter face. He could not accept this number. How much did these people drink? Yes, this is the account book, Payman, and this gentleman drank a lot, and there are refills later. Dilek handed the bill to Wendy. Wendy took the long bill and her face became more bitter. She didn't know how long she would have to sing here to pay it off. Dilek, I only have 50,000 mora. How about giving me some time? Wendy took out the remaining 50,000 mora and said to Dilek, you owe me more than once or twice here. You haven't paid back the wine you bought on credit before. Dilek glanced at Wendy and said lightly, Wendy. Wendy turned her head and looked at Aang and Payman. Aang couldn't pay him for this bill. It was so hard to cheat Wendy once. If she asked her to pay the bill, wouldn't she be cheated? Old man, do you have money? Wendy couldn't stand the gazes of the gods and Nashida's innocent and curious eyes, so she asked Zhongli. Well, no, Zhongli said with an unchanged expression. Hey, Liusu, how about you help me out? Liu pays you so much, you definitely don't care about such a small amount of money. Wendy remembered Liusu's savings in Liu and the salary she was paid. I don't have any money either. I didn't bring any this time. Why don't you bring any money? Wendy felt unacceptable. Liusu obviously had money, but she didn't bring any money, just like Morax didn't have Morax. Oh, yes, Morax was still sitting there. Is it weird? We never bring any money? Liuan looked at Wendy strangely. As a god, you wouldn't even know this, right? Wendy, then how do you spend money in Liu? Don't you have someone to send you whatever you want? No, just send the bill to my apprentice. Liuan continued to answer. Wendy, how about sending the bill to your apprentice? If you really don't have money, you can only do this. Just send the bill to Ganyu in Yuhei Pavilion. Liuan was very humane. This amount was nothing, and the other party was the god of wind. No. Dilek listened for a long time. Send the bard's account to Yuhei Pavilion. Ganyu of Yuhei Pavilion is the secretary of the 7 stars of Liu, and she is also an immortal. If Ganyu knows, then the whole Liu will know it. The god of wind doesn't want face, but they want it in Mondstadt. Then we have no choice. Liusu said with his hands spread out. May the god of wind fool you, Wendy. Wendy. Hard. Fists are hard. So angry. But what to do? If you can't beat him, Liuan, give the boss a little amulet you made. See if it can be used to pay the bill. Liusu smiled and looked at Wendy's frustrated look, then used Skynet to record Wendy's appearance, pretended to think for a while, and said to Liuan, which one are you talking about? Liuan took out a green amulet, and handed it to Liusu. Go ahead, see if this can pay for the wine of this drunkard. Liusu took the amulet, and threw it to Dilek. Such a strong breath of life, it can also repair my internal injuries. After Dilek took it, he noticed that the injuries he had previously suffered from the evil eye had been healed. Well, yes, if you come to the angel's gift in the future, as long as you don't take anything away, you can drink for free. Dilek took the amulet, and didn't say too many words of thanks, just expressed his meaning. Can I, too? Wendy said with a smile. Of course not. Dilek was speechless about his own god. Why did Mond have such an unreliable god? Okay. Wendy said regretfully, but the previous wine money was paid off, and he could continue to drink in the future. Although there was no Mora today, there was still plenty of time for the Windflower Festival, so overall he still made a profit. Chapter 74 Daily Life. Ganyu, look, this is a wreath I made for you with the Cecilia flowers I picked. Keking smiled and took out a wreath. Ganyu looked at the wreath in front of her, and her face turned red. Keking, you. In the past 2 days, the two of them also learned a lot of interesting stories about the Windflower Festival in Mondstadt. Now Keking also gave her a wreath made of Cecilia flowers. How could she not think too much? Although the Cecilia flower is a specialty of Mondstadt, it is very similar to Kingsin. I think you will like it. Keking said as she prepared to put the wreath on Ganyu's head. Come on, Ganyu, try it and see if it looks good. Ganyu blushed, lowered her head, and did not move, allowing Keking to put the wreath on her head. Not bad, it looks good. Keking looked at Ganyu and praised her, her purple eyes full of smiles. Thank you. Ganyu didn't know what to say, so she could only thank Keking softly. Keking, you're too close. Ganyu waited for a long time, and found that Keking didn't leave, but seemed to be looking at her closely. She could feel Keking's breath on her face. This feeling made her feel confused, and she could only remind her quietly, okay. Keking looked at Ganyu's flushed face and was happy. Ganyu didn't distance herself from her, but reminded her. She probably felt shy, so Keking wouldn't put Ganyu too nervous. Let's go. The Windflower Festival is coming soon. It's getting more and more lively now. Let's have some fun. Liusu is right. We can't work too much. We also need to relax and finish our work. Keking took Ganyu's hand and led her out of the hotel. Although Ganyu felt shy, she couldn't suppress the joy in her heart. A smile overflowed from the corner of her mouth involuntarily, and she looked at Keking who was holding her without blinking. What Ganyu and Keking didn't know at this time was that there was a white-haired woman behind them looking at them. If Payman were here, he would definitely exclaim, wow, it's that woman. Nashida, if you keep doing this, I'll send you back to Zumi. Liusu rubbed her swollen head and looked at the green badminton in front of her. Nashida looked at her eagerly, and the expectation of her big eyes shone on Liusu a little, so she could only cover her head and sigh. Nashida, hey. Don't be cute. And what does hey mean? Liusu stretched out her hand in anger and pinched Nashida's cheek, pulling it gently while speaking. Well, don't, I'm done, I know. Nashida stretched out her little hand weakly to resist Liusu's destruction. The little hand had no effect on Liusu. Even mind reading and all of Nashida's abilities were useless to Liusu. In front of Liusu, Nashida was just an ordinary little girl. Because Liusu's grass element was unknown how many times that of Nashida. If I had known this, why did I do it in the first place? Liusu let go of Nashida's cheek and said with a tiger face, well, it hurts. Nashida stretched out her little hand and rubbed her cheek, looking at Liusu with her big eyes and said pitifully, okay, what do you want to drink? I want to drink raspberry mint drink, 2 cups, oh no, 3 cups. Nashida hugged Liusu's arm intimately and said like a spoiled child, okay, really, you don't look like a god at all. Liusu said while rubbing Nashida's little head. It's because you are the king of the great kindness tree. Nashida said happily. She liked the smell of Liusu. It smelled good and warm. Although Liusu said she disliked her, but Nashida could not read Liusu's heart, but she could see the love for her in Liusu's eyes. This love was very pure, without any other emotions, which made her very happy. In Nashida's eyes, Liusu was also the so-called person who said he hated her but acted upright. Don't call me the king of the great kindness tree. Liusu corrected on the side. Okay, that won't work either. Liusu glanced at Nashida calmly and stopped her from saying what she was about to say. Liusu. Nashida shouted in accordance with Liusu's meaning, with a look of loss in her eyes, which made Liusu's veins pop. What are you losing? Bang. The sound was a good start. It hurts. Nashida squatted down with tears in her eyes and covered the place where she was hit because Liusu hit her head violently. Although both of them were immune to grass element, Liusu's body was also very strong, so Liusu's attack was a real damage to Nashida who had no means of defense in front of him. Nashida squatted on the ground with her head in her arms, raised her head, and looked at herself with pitiful eyes. Liusu touched her chin and thought, why did she feel that this grass god was getting more and more wrong? Why was he so naughty? Could it be that Nashida really wanted to stage a Teyvat grass god competition with her? Liusu felt terrified when she thought of this and quickly threw this unreliable idea out of her mind. Let's go shopping. Liuan was worried that Ganyu had left alone, so he said he was going to observe Ganyu and Kaking's movements. Liusu took Nashida out and prepared to eat something first. You said you didn't bring money? It's okay, I'll call Ganyu over to pay the bill. Ganyu's name is still very useful. It was mainly because I realized that I didn't bring money when I was eating yesterday, so I caught Ganyu who was with Kaking and called Ganyu to pay for me. Because the name of the 7-star secretary is also very useful in Mondstadt, most people know him, so the account was naturally transferred to Ganyu. So Ganyu equals Liusu's wallet. Deer Hunter restaurant. As for why I always come to the Deer Hunter, it's because Liusu doesn't know if there are other foods in Mondstadt. Aang, Payman. As soon as Liusu entered the restaurant, he saw Aang and Payman here. It was dinner time, and Payman, who couldn't miss a meal, would of course appear here. Ah, it's Liusu and Nashida. Good morning. Payman turned to greet Liusu and Nashida. Good morning. Liusu, Nashida, come eat together. Payman ordered a lot, and the dishes haven't been served yet. As a loyal believer of the grass element, Aang's favorability towards the 2 grass gods has undoubtedly reached a particularly higher level. Compared with the other 2 gods, Aang is more willing to treat Liusu and Nashida to a meal. Then we won't be polite. Nashida smiled and walked over and found a seat to sit down. It was Aang who brought her out of Zumi at the beginning, and later she met the great compassion tree king. Nashida was also very grateful to Aang. What are your plans for today? Liusu sat down and asked Aang. Today is the time for Kaya to hand in his homework. Wendy told me to go to the knights to find them later. After the dishes were served, Aang said while eating. Then let's go and take a look later. Okay. For some reason, Nashida couldn't eat seafood. When Liuan took out the only remaining Zion Shiokayang, Nashida couldn't stand it after taking a smell. Chapter 75. Too easy a task. Wendy should be here by now. Let's go in and take a look. Liusu, Nashida and Aang came to the entrance of the knights. Please stay. What can I do for you? A bespectacled Favonius knight, Acho, stopped the group from moving forward. Is Kia here? We need him for something. If you want to see Captain Kia, he's on duty in Captain Kin's office. Hey, why is he in Captain Kin's office? Payman asked in confusion. The Windflower Festival has always been hosted by our Favonius Knights. During the festival, Captain Kin will go out on patrol in person. I thought Kia was the captain. Aang's words made Acho pause, and then he continued, the backlog of bookcases will be handed over to Captain Kia. Payman was also misled by Aang's words just now. I see. Aang, how can you think so? Payman turned around and complained to Aang. Aang, hey, what do you mean? Payman said angrily. Aang looked more and more like a street singer, which made her very sad. Traveler, Payman, and, Liusu? Nashida, you're here. Wendy greeted Aang with a smile at first, but when he saw Liusu and Nashida also walked in, his smile froze for a moment. Can't I come? Liusu asked. That's not the case. I'm just surprised. Wendy said in her heart. Why are these two here again? Nashida added on the side. Wendy. Hey, I don't want to save face. Wendy looked at Nashida with resentment. One can read minds, and the other doesn't play by the rules. These are the two gods Wendy is most reluctant to face. I just thought of you, and you're here. What a coincidence. Kaya quickly took over the topic and said. Payman, Kaya, have you finished your homework? I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. I haven't started yet. Students who don't hand in their homework are not good students. Wendy looked at Kaya with her hands on her hips. What is Kaya busy with when he's not doing his homework? Well, as you can see, I'm helping Captain Kin deal with various things. Kia pointed to the various documents on the table and said, Mondstadt is very lively during the celebration, and there are so many chores that come with it. I've been busy for a long time. Traveler, can you do me a favor? A drinking buddy asked me to do something, but I really can't get away. I want you to run a trip for me. Drinking buddy, is it a friend I met in the tavern? Speaking of wine, Wendy became interested and asked Kia quickly. Yes. I occasionally go to the tavern for a drink after get off work, and I have made many friends without realizing it. His name is Ninglu, and he usually hangs out near the tavern. At this time, I guess he should be free. Everyone followed Kia's guidance and found the man named Ninglu at the door of the Angel's Gift. After understanding the situation, Ninglu's request was 2 small lamp grasses. Aang didn't know how to describe her mood at that time. She silently took out 2 small lamp grasses from her backpack, which can be found almost everywhere in Mondstadt. We are back. Kia, have you finished writing? Payman greeted Kia, who was still working inside. The teacher is here to collect the homework. Welcome back. I'm almost done here. Hurry up, hand in your homework, hand in your homework. Payman urged. Here you go, just don't laugh at me. After Kia finished speaking, he stood up, took out a piece of paper, and handed it to Wendy. HMM. Wendy looked at the content on the paper, as if she was brewing emotions. Singer, can you comment on it? Payman was very curious about the content on the paper. Kia, can I read this poem out loud? Please. Ahem. Wendy moistened her throat and read aloud with emotion. Mimuyi means I love you in the language of the Hillchow people. HMM. Payman scratched his head. I finished reading it. Wendy said. Payman asked in shock. No more. Nashida, although I don't understand what it's about, but it expresses love, so Nashida thinks it's feasible. The main idea is clear and the expression is on point. I think this length is enough. Kia, on the other hand, thought it was nothing. He touched his chin and said, obviously very satisfied with his article. Hey. It's completely teaching in the Hillchow language. Aang touched his chin and said, great, I learned a lot. Aang, how can you learn this kind of poetry? Hahaha, don't you think it's a love poem in my style? It's more like a perfunctory love poem. Wendy glanced at Kia, obviously not very satisfied with the poem. Kia actually knows the Hillchow language? How strange. Haha, don't underestimate the knowledge reserve of the captain of the Knights of Favonius. Well, okay, let's go get the next one. Wendy no longer had hope for Kia. Kaya turned around and saw a figure flashing by. There seems to be a suspicious figure just now. I have to go and check it out. Traveler, I have another small matter to trouble you. The church has applied for a hunting permit from us, and you have to send this permit document to the cathedral. Alas, we have to run errands again. Payman also realized at this time that this Windflower Festival is all about running errands. You guys go. Nashida and I won't go. We plan to continue to stroll around and see if there are any interesting things. Seeing Aang preparing to act, Liusu said that these side quests, to be honest, are so tiring. Either running errands or on the way to running errands, it's better to go fishing. At first, Liusu was still excited to follow Aang to complete some tasks and witness it in person, but after running a trip, she didn't want to leave. It turned out that salted fish is better. Hey, are we not going? Nashida said curiously, because she had never seen the world. She thought these were very interesting. No, we are going to Zinglo Lake to fish. Okay, Liusu goodbye. Aang, let's go. Payman greeted Aang and left. Are you going fishing? Zinglo Lake is indeed a good choice. Wendy said on the side. I wish you a good time. Yeah. Liusu took Nashida away. As they were leaving, a red figure rushed towards Liusu and Nashida. Liusu dodged and Nashida was confused and hadn't reacted yet. Bang. Ouch. X2 it hurts. The two little ones slowly got up and rubbed their foreheads. Are you okay? Liusu whispered on the side. Well, Liusu, why didn't you pull me away and just dodge by yourself? Nashida rubbed her head and said resentfully. Ahem. Are you okay? Nashida helped the girl who was knocked down and asked. Well, I'm fine. Sorry, I bumped into you. Your things fell. Nashida picked up a piece of paper on the ground. It said, report on the city's blasting detention room. Bombs hurting people. Jane came to the door, and Klee was finished for setting fire to the mountain. Nashida. She looks like a very dangerous girl. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.